The first thing that you're going to see when you actually launch Hyperland by typing in Hyperland with a capital H at the TTY is this welcome screen over here, as you can see. So let's just click on thanks, but I don't need help. And as for Hyperland being updated, as you can see that I've just recently updated, that is why you're seeing that. Now, the first thing to do is to, of course, launch Kitty with Super Q and get rid of this warning that you're seeing over here. Now, let's just zoom in so you can see what's going on. Open the Hyperland config file, hyperland.conf, and in here you want to get rid of the auto-generated equals 1 config line. Okay, so let's just also get rid of the starting comments as well. Once you do that, you should be able to get rid of the warning. Now, I have not done much else apart from just setting up the monitors and the menu, so I will just show you how to do that very quickly. Now, as for monitors, I actually have a multi-monitor setup. So EDP1 is going to be my laptop screen, my laptop monitor, and DP1 is this 2560 by 1440 display that you are seeing right over here. Now, if you want to get to know what your monitors are, if you have multiple monitors connected, is by typing in hyperctl monitors, and you are going to find all of the different monitors currently attached. So right now I have just disabled EDP1, which is why you're not seeing anything. But if I just get rid of this and then hold on a sec, yeah, let's just type in the rest, we'll just fill it out. This is 1920 by 1200 at 144. The position is going to be 2560 x0, so it's right after my main monitor off to the side, and the scale is going to be 1. So the moment that I do that, my display has turned on, and if I rerun hyperctl monitors, you're going to see that EDP1 has been turned on here as well. And here you can see all of the different modes available. Here it's 1920 by 1200 at 144 or at 60. And color management preset is at sRGB. Now, as for DP1, which is the main monitor, the one that you're seeing the screen currently, this one is running at what? Now 2560 by 1440 at 143.97 hertz. Okay. Now, as for setting up your monitor, this is how you do it. Okay. First of all, you start with the monitor keyword. And after that, you're going to type in the monitor name, which we just retrieved by going into hyperctl monitors. So you get to know which monitor you currently want to actually operate on, and then you put that monitor name over here. The next thing is going to be the resolution as well as the refresh rate if you want to specify it. You have two options when it comes to resolution. Either you can take a look at the, what do you call it? Where is that over here? I'm pretty sure, yeah, available modes. You can take a look at the available modes and then choose one from here. You can just directly copy and paste. Just make sure to omit the hertz unit at the end because you don't need that. Okay, you can either do that or you can just set it to preferred. And okay, I would just show you as an example. Preferred would look something like this. So what preferred is going to do is basically take the preferred resolution of the monitor, the one that it naturally wants to be at, and it's going to use that. Now, naturally, this is going to apply to the refresh rate as well. And so by default, most likely, if you have a high refresh rate monitor, that's going to tend to be at 60 by default, unless you actually specify the refresh rate by going in and typing at 144 or at 143.97 or whatever number that you find inside of available modes. Okay, then the next thing is going to be the position. Now, because the main monitor is 2560 by 1440, okay, it's 2560 across, so I want to put my laptop screen to the right side. That's actually how it is in, real life. My laptop is to the right of my main monitor, and so that's the same configuration that I have over here, 2560 x0. So the monitor starts right where my main monitor ends. That's it. So if you wanted to flip it around, you could do it the other way. Okay, you could set this to something like, what do you call it? 1920 by 0, and then you just set this to 00. That way, the main monitor starts on the right side of the integrated one. For now, in order to keep things less confusing, I'm just going to be using the not integrated, but actually my main monitor. So we'll just disable EDP1. And there you go. Everything works perfectly fine. Switching workspaces means that all of that is going to happen on one monitor alone. That's great. Now, we're going to start doing some stuff. Okay, let's actually increase the scale to make it a little bit easier for you to see. Okay, we'll just space this out as well. There you go. Now, the scale 1.25 should be enough. Yep, that should be plenty. Now you can actually see what's going on. Great. Now, if you're still finding it a little bit hard to see, then you can, of course, go full screen so that you can actually see what's going on. Or you can open this on a second monitor or even a different display, like your phone or another laptop if you have it lying around. So with that said, let's see. Okay, now what we're going to want to do is separate our main hyperland.conf file into multiple different files, which is something that I call modularity, okay? You basically want to make your Hyperland config file modular so that whenever you want to find a particular setting, you're not left looking through a haystack for just one specific needle. Let's say I was looking for monitor settings, okay? And this line, this config eventually grows to be so big, something like what, 300, 400 lines, that looking for the monitor line, which is somewhere spread inside of the entire config, is going to become quite a bit of a hassle and a headache. So in order to avoid that, what you can do is split the config file up into different files. That way, whenever you have to deal with a particular aspect of the compositor, whether that be the monitors or the programs that you're going to be using for launching, auto start, or anything else for that matter, all you have to do is just open that particular file, and then you're able to easily access it. So let's start by doing that. By actually starting, what we're going to have to do is use the source keyword like so. Okay, now the way that I've done it on my main machine is by actually going into config hyper, and in here what I've done is made a new config file, as in a new folder, and I just call it modules. So inside of this modules folder, there's going to be the modules that the Hyperland config is actually supposed to be made up of. So that would look a little something like this. I would open it, okay, and vim, well, let's see here, we'll just call this monitors.conf. Inside of monitors, all you want to do is just copy and paste. So right here, I'm using NeoVim, but if you're using another text editor, that's completely fine. You could even use something like VS Code, and that would not be an issue at all. Okay, so monitors, this is what it looks like. I've just cut and then pasted the content right into here. Also leaving a new line at the end because that's just, convention for Unix files. The reason why is because whenever you're going to echo something like hello world at the end of a file, usually what happens is when you're going to append that to something like hello.txt, okay, most likely you're going to want to leave a blank line at the end so that whenever you append stuff, it goes in the blank line instead of over here, which could end up breaking config sometimes. This is just another Unix convention that Unix operating systems used to have back in the day, so that you could execute commands like these without having to worry about stuff ending up on the same line. If you want, you can follow the same. Otherwise, you can just keep it flush by ending the last line over here. I'm going to keep that convention, so let's just keep it going like this. Okay, now we want to create another section called sourcing files. Okay, sourcing files. Now, if you want, you can add in all of this sort of fancy stuff like here for these comments. Okay, you can do that on your free time, but for now, let's just source. Okay, home/.config, hyper, modules, and let's call this monitors.conf. So right now, if I hit enter or just write the changes, you're going to see that nothing absolutely changes, okay? Because everything is basically the same. It's just that this part of the config has been broken out into another file. That's it. Okay, that's for monitors.conf. Now, let's actually edit whatever we need to for the rest of the Hyperland config file. I will go step by step telling you why you're supposed to edit things certain ways and how exactly you can edit it in a different way in case you wanted to do so for yourself. Great. Now, next thing we're going to be dealing with is programs. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can go about this, okay? Basically, what we're doing here is we're creating 3 variables for terminal, file manager, as well as our menu. Now, if you don't want to use these variables and instead what you want to do is just directly hard code them into your keybinds, you're welcome to do that as well. But because by default we have these program section over here, and because I'm actually showing you how you're supposed to make stuff modular, I will just use this as is, okay? Now, as for terminal, that's Kitty, that works perfectly fine. For file manager, I would rather pick something like Nautilus or Thunar, depending on which one that I particularly want. So right now, if I open mod R, okay, that's the menu key by default. Now menu is actually going to be Hyper Launcher, but I have changed it to be Wafi -show drun so that you can actually see what's going on instead of having to compile another app from the AWR for absolutely no reason. So here, what I am going to be doing is showing you the difference between Thunar and Nautilus in how they look. So right now we have absolutely nothing, as you can see here. We have nothing. This is when it comes to Thunar. And if I were to show you what Nautilus looks like, this is what the GTK4 app Nautilus, which is the file manager for GNOME, actually looks like. So depending on which one you actually want, you can choose one of these two. I will be going with Nautilus because it looks cleaner out of the box. So let's just go with that. We'll just change this to Nautilus. Now, as for the menu, we're going to be changing that to Rofi in a later video, but for now, we'll just keep it to be Wofi because it works and it gets the job done. Okay, now same thing. You're going to want to do the same thing. Here, you just want to go to programs.conf, and in here, you want to copy this, cut basically, paste, and you're done. That's it. Then you're going to want to source the file as well. So home/.config, hyper modules. This one you're going to call programs.conf. Okay, the next one is going to be our auto start. So here you're going to auto start necessary processes like notification daemons, status bars, etc. Here we have absolutely nothing auto starting. But if we wanted to auto start something, most likely we are. That's going to be Waybar. Okay, Waybar, and that's pretty much it for now. Waybar and our wallpaper daemon. We can do that later on, but for now, let's just cut and paste this into autostart.conf as well. Autostart.conf. Let's paste that in here. Okay. And in case we had to execute something else, we could just type exec once equals Waybar, which means that if we log out and log back in, the first thing that we're going to see on screen is going to be Waybar, which is going to be automatically launched. Now, the way we're actually going to launch Waybar is not going to be something like this. Instead, what we're going to do is execute a script which deals with the launching of Waybar. That way we can do even more cool stuff like changing the layouts of Waybar if we wanted to, because we're actually using a script in order to launch Waybar instead of directly hard coding it over here. And also, if you wanted to launch Waybar with different arguments, like passing in a different config file or even a style.css file, we can do that inside of the script itself instead of hard coding it inside of our Hyperland config file, which wouldn't make much sense once you've actually started to get the hang of writing. So that in this case would look something like config, Waybar, scripts, launch.sh. We're going to be using this later on anyway. So for now, I will just write this and then comment it out and get rid of this, of course, because we're not going to be using any of that. Okay, great. Just get rid of this as well. Perfect. Now this is done. Next thing, let's just source this as well. YY, then P to paste here. Programs, autostart.conf. Great. Next thing is going to be environment variables. So right now we have only 2 environment variables set over here. There are a couple more environment variables that you actually can set, which I will show you. So let's get that done as well. env.conf. Inside env.conf, you want to copy this, basically cut paste. Okay, now let's open this link, the configuring environment variables link. So maybe you have to control click in order for it to show up. Okay, seems like it's not working, so we can just go to the website itself and then get it done. Okay, let's just close all this. I was troubleshooting some stuff. Okay, now here, what you want to do is just come here, copy, and we'll just paste this here. Or you can just search it in your search engine, Hyperland Wiki environment variables. Now, in this section here, you will find that there are quite a lot of environment variables right over here, okay? Like Hyperland Trace, Hyperland No RT, but these ones are most likely for development, okay? And same for Aquamarine as well. Now, the ones that we're going to be using the most are Toolkit backend variables, XDG specifications, Qt variables, and NVIDIA specific ones. Now, with the NVIDIA ones, you have to be careful because stacking on too many variables, okay, too many environment variables will actually cause your shit to break, and that is definitely not fun. I have been experimenting with these NVIDIA variables for some time now, and I've found that 1 or 2 from here, especially libva driver name, this one is one that you're going to want to keep. This one, as well as GBM backend NVIDIA DRM. These 2 environment variables are most likely all you need. Now, if you notice that some errors are still occurring, okay, you can try setting the other ones. You're going to have to mix and match in order to find your specific configuration. But for me specifically, this is a laptop RTX 5050. So I have tried and tested it, and these two environment variables, they're what works for me. So let's copy and paste the environment variables here, and let's see what they actually do. Now, to make this easier, we'll just put this to the side, reduce the size of this, here, put this here. Okay, there we go, perfect. Now, starting with the toolkit backend variables, what are you going to want to do here? env equals GTK backend Wayland X11. Basically, you're telling GTK to use Wayland if available, and if not, just try X11. And if that fails too, then use whatever other backend that you have left. So let's copy this and paste it here. Go back, there you go. Next thing is Qt, QPA platform, Wayland, or XCB. So this is for Qt apps, okay? So when it comes to GTK versus Qt or Qt, okay, these two are basically UI frameworks. They're two different frameworks that you can use in order to write applications on Linux, on Wayland or Xorg. Now, just like you have React and Svelte and Angular and other web frameworks, these two are two such frameworks that you can use to write GTK, as in Linux apps as well. So here for both toolkits, what we're going to be doing is just saying use Wayland first, and if that fails, only then move on to Xorg or any other backend that you have left. And Wayland and Xorg, they're basically display servers. They are what allow you to get a graphical environment. That's it. There's a lot more lore that you can get into, especially when it comes to display servers and UI frameworks and which one's the best and whatnot. But for now, we'll not complicate ourselves too much with that. We'll not concern ourselves too much with that. We'll just keep in mind that Wayland is what makes the displays, the GUI stuff possible. That's it. Now, STL video driver. So this is for running STL2 apps on Wayland. Copy and paste this as well. If you have no idea what that means, it's completely fine. You don't have to know. Then clutter backend as well. This is for clutter as well. So just copy and paste this like so. Okay. Then you can actually create a comment that says toolkit backend. And then you have the variables here. Next thing is XDG specification. So you can do that here as well. XDG. Just copy all of this and then paste it. So the current desktop is Hyperland, session type is Wayland, and session desktop is Hyperland. Now, where you're going to be using this is most likely going to be in NeoFetch. So whenever you type NeoFetch, you're going to be seeing something, right? So let's type NeoFetch here. You're going to see the WM section here. Now, WM is going to be Hyperland. Now, when you type XDG session desktop, most likely what's going to happen is it's going to set it to Hyperland. And sometimes NeoFetch is going to pick up on that and then display DE Hyperland here as well. That might be different, okay? It might not be the case all the time, but regardless, that is what this is intended for, just setting XDG specifications. So here, XDG specific environment variables are detected through portals and apps that may set those for you. However, it's not a bad idea to set them explicitly. Okay, then for Qt variables, this is most likely going to be useful if you're using Qt or KDE apps like Kdenlive or Ocular or Clock or any other apps like that. So let's just set the auto screen scale factor to 1, which means you're going to enable automatic scaling depending on the monitor's pixel density. So for me, it might be a little something more than 1. Here, I could set it to 1.25 if I wanted to get it to zoom the same way, but that's fine. Here too, Qt, QPA platform. We're pretty sure we already have that, so we're not going to set it again. Wayland, disable window decoration. Yes, we want this because Wayland, as in Hyperland rather, is a place where you're actually just using the window itself instead of having any decorations on top. So this is going to be useful. Then Qt QPA platform theme. I'm pretty sure, okay, that has not been set. So we'll just set that to Qt6CT. Now this one we're going to cover in the theming section, which is going to come later on. But for now, when you set Qt QPA platform theme to Qt6CT, you're basically telling all Qt apps to listen to the configuration that you have set inside of Qt6CT, the app basically. Then for NVIDIA specific stuff, for NVIDIA, you're going to want to do something like this. So GBM backend, put that here, NVIDIA DRM, then libva driver name NVIDIA, hardware acceleration on NVIDIA GPUs. You have more environment variables, as I've already said, but you're going to have to mix and match to see which ones suit your GPU the best. We'll write quit here. There you go. Now, for permissions, this one's actually quite interesting because in a recent update, Hyperland has the ability to allow you to set permissions just like you can on Android. I've made a video on it before, but for most people, 99.99%, you are not going to require permissions whatsoever, so we can completely ignore this thing. If for whatever reason, you're really paranoid or for, you just want to get permissions working for whatever reason, then of course you can go to the wiki or check out my other video that I have made on that. Now, for look and feel. Look and feel, I, on my main machine, have distinguished it into two types. There's decorations.conf and there's animations.conf. For decorations, we have general and decoration here. For animations, we have the specific animations block that's inside of the config file. So let's start with the general look and feel one. So we'll just call this decoration.conf. Decorations.conf or decoration.conf, doesn't matter. Okay, just go in here. Let's move this to second workspace, shift this here, perfect. Now, okay, we'll put this here as well. Great. So here you want to just select all of this, select it all, right click, cut, paste, and you're done. Now we're going to be changing some stuff, so let's get started with that. You have gaps in, that's going to be 5, and gaps out is 20. We definitely want to change that because we do not want that to be the case. So when you do that, you're going to have to actually source the file as well. So let's do that. Now here it's going to be env.conf, env, and you also want decoration.conf. Okay, there you go. Now the changes are immediately reflected. Now, the reason why having gaps in is 10 and having gaps out is 20 actually makes it look uniform is because every single window has a gaps in of 10. Okay, and 10 plus 10 means 20, which basically means that you're going to line up the gaps that are on the inside of windows to the outside, which means that it ends up looking uniform at the end. So that's pretty good. Then what we're going to do, change the border size. You want the border size to be 1 and not 2 so that you can create a fancy effect, which I will show you how to do later on. It's a lot like macOS design, which actually looks pretty slick and nice. So there's that. Okay, let's write the change. There you go. And we can reduce gaps out to something like 15 or even 10. Here we can change that to 7, because of course it's half of 15. And yeah, works pretty well. For border size, we can leave that be. For the active border, there's actually a gradient going on here, but let's not choose that. Okay, this is the part where we're actually going to have to pick a color scheme, but for now, we can just leave it as it is. For the colors and everything we'll deal with later on. Now here, set to true, enabling resizing windows by clicking and dragging on borders and gaps. Right now, it is set to nothing. It's set to false, so it's actually not possible. If you want to do that, you can set it to true. And now you can see that you can actually drag around windows and have it work completely fine and perfectly. If you want to go into floating mode, you press Super V, and that's going to definitely get the window into floating mode. Once you're in floating mode, you can edit the actual dimensions of the window by doing stuff like this. Before, it used to be much, much worse, and you had to literally you be a ninja in terms of precision and just trying to get hold of the corner, but they've actually made it much, much easier now, so that's a relief. Let's put that back. Resize on border, you can set that to true if you want. Here, allow tearing. So allow tearing is basically a form of VSync, okay? VSync stands for vertical synchronization, which basically means that you're going to sync every frame that's being displayed on screen to your monitor's refresh rate. Now, this can be a pro or a con depending on what you're going for. If you have a high refresh rate monitor, something like a 144 Hz or even a 240 Hz monitor, then yeah, allow tearing can be set to, what do you call it? It's actually false by default, but what I'm trying to say is you can set VSync to true and then not have to worry about things being sluggish, because 240 Hz or even 144 Hz is quite a step up from 60. Now, if you set tearing to true, you're basically disabling VSync and allowing for frame rates much, much higher than usual. And so if you want that extra bit of snappiness and less input lag and input latency, then of course you can go with allow tearing to be true. Now, they are saying just check this out before you turn tearing on. So let's actually just go and do that. Tearing. Yeah, screen tearing is used to reduce latency and or jitter in games. So here you can enable tearing, so you can just set it to true, or you can add an immediate window rule to your game of choice. This makes sure that Hyperland will tear it. Here, common issues, no tearing at all, apps that should tear, freeze, and graphical artifacts. Just leave this be. Okay, if you want tearing, you can set this to true. But for me, because I'm not going to be doing much gaming on this particular setup, the one that I'm showing you, I can just leave that to false. Now, for the layout, there's actually quite a lot that you can do when it comes to layout. Okay, you have dwindle, you have master, and then you have also scrolling layout. Okay, I'll just show you a quick preview of what master looks like. Master is the same layout that you have inside of DWM. DWM was an OG window manager back in the day, which is heavily following suckless philosophy. And suckless philosophy basically says that keep things super minimal, and if you don't really need something, don't implement it. Leave all the implementation of extra features to the user, because all we want is a bare minimum working compositor, not a compositor, a window manager that just gets stuff done and is not bloated whatsoever. So you can get rid of these two. So if I were to show you a preview again, this is what the master layout looks like. This is not quite the same behavior that you would see inside of DWM, or maybe it is, I've just forgotten. But yeah, you can set up your windows to be this way. or you can set it to be in dwindle, which looks like this. Dwindle. Okay, now in dwindle, this is basically the same as BSPWM's layout. So whenever you open a window, it's going to open here, and next here, next here, next here, next here. This is basically the same as the binary space partitioning window layout, window manager's layout. Great. Then you also have scrolling, where is that? Okay, this is supposed to be this way. And yeah, scrolling layout, that one is actually the same as Nitty's scrolling layout. I have made a video on it in the past, so if you haven't seen that, you can check that out. But for now, we'll just keep it dwindle to keep things looking the same and pretty nice. Now, as for rounding, rounding is actually really interesting because there's something we can change when it comes to decoration. For now, rounding is set to 10 and rounding power is set to 2. You can also change the shape of rounding. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, hold on. Let's look for configuring variables. Variables, decoration. You should find blur shadow. Okay. Rounding power. Yeah. So inside of rounding power, this adjusts the curve that is actually used for rounding corners. Larger is smoother, 2 is a circle, 4 is a squircle, and 1 is a triangular corner. So if you switch this to 1, you would find that the corners are very triangular. Now I can change rounding to something like 20 to make it noticeable. Okay, in case you could not tell, yep, this is what it does. Now, if not, you can change it to something like 2, which is part of the circle, or something like 3, which makes it more like a squircle. We change this to 4. Yep, it's more of a squircle. You can change it to something like 10, and it really rounds it to be more of, what would you even call this shape? A rounded rectangle or a square, depending on how you have your window resized. So we'll set this to 10 for now because it looks pretty cool, especially when we add a different color. Okay, it's going to make it look 10 times better. So we'll just keep this to 10 for now. Active and inactive opacities. So, okay, Hyperland has the blur feature, right? So if you change active opacity to something like 0.7, what it's going to do is basically turn down the opacity of a given window and blur that so you can actually see the background behind it. I would not suggest reducing this too much below 0.9 or 0.8 because that's when stuff gets really hard to read, okay? However, you are free to change this as you wish. For now, we're going to be doing the customization later on, so we'll just keep this at 1. Then shadow. Shadow, you're going to want to enable. Okay, range is 4, render power is 3, and color is this much. Range basically refers to how big the shadow is. You can change it to something like 15 for a more pronounced effect. And here, this is what it looks like. You can change the color of the shadow to be a bit darker so you can see it a little. A, B, C, D, E, F, right? So let's just keep this to DD. It's a bit darker. There you go. You can actually see a bit more of the shadow, which is perfect. I'll keep this for now. And blur, enabled, true. Size is basically how big the blur is. Passes, how many passes you're going to make. So you can blur the window once, blur it again, and blur it again to increase the number of passes. Basically, that's what you're doing. All of the stuff when it comes to decorations and stuff we will deal with later on. So for now, you just want to make sure you're sourcing it and calling it a day. Then, next thing you want to do is animations.conf. And in animations.conf, you want to take this, completely copy and paste. You just want to cut and paste here. And you also want to come right over to this part. Right here, you want to go to animations.conf. Once you have sourced that, let's see. So, enabled, yes please, you definitely want to enable it. The way that actually yes please works is because it just ignores anything that it finds after the yes, so you can add yes please, yes, no please, whatever you want to add, whatever text you want to add. Just to make the config file a bit more lively, you can do that without having to incur any consequences, just like you would in any other programming languages. Then here, you have ease out quint. Okay, so these are all Bezier curves. Now, without getting too much into math, okay, a Bezier curve, when it comes to CSS and animations, basically determines how the animation is supposed to look. Or, yeah, you can basically say that it determines how the animation looks and how it feels and how you can see it. Here, these are the default curves that they have: ease out quint, ease in out cubic, linear, almost linear, and quick. Okay, x0, x0, y0. Oh wait, x0, y0, x1, y1. These are the coordinates. These are basically the coordinates. And as for the animations, you have lots of different things that you can apply the animations to, like global, so this is for all animations, border, windows in, windows out, and so on and so forth, quite a lot of stuff. You can look at animations on its specific page, and you will find that indeed there is a lot of stuff that you can edit animations for. Monitor added zoom animation, zoom factor. Yeah, there's basically everything that you can change when it comes to animations. And that is honestly what makes Hyperland so amazing to Rice in the first place. It's a Ricer's wet dream, if you will. Here, this is the name, on or off, speed, curve. This is the Bezier curve that you have defined here, and style. So for styles, you have some stuff, right? Styles you have here. Let's see what styles are defined. Styles are defined right here. Okay, for layers, you have slide, pop in, and fade. Slide, pop in, gnomed. For windows, I will show you what they do in detail later on in a different section. For now, we're just trying to get the base config working, so let's do that. We'll just write quit. Okay, perfect. Next thing, here you have an option for window rules and smart gaps. So we're almost nearing the end with keybinds and windows and workspaces. So let's just do this. Okay, here, smart gaps or no gaps when only. You can uncomment all of this if you want to use that. So workspace, this thing. Okay, so basically what this is doing is allowing you to use smart gaps as a feature. Now, if you wanted to do that, you can do a little something like this. Okay, now when you're on only one workspace, when you're on a workspace that has only one window, you're using smart gaps in the sense that there are no gaps at all. If you have another window that's suddenly opening, okay, as you can see, everything fits accordingly and gaps are suddenly visible. You can keep this feature if you want to. This is not quite full screen, but it's just no gaps. That's why it looks like this. If you had a bar on top, it would not quite be the same as obstructing the bar because it's just maximized. So I guess you can keep this if you want to. You can uncomment this and then paste it inside of windowrules.conf. Okay, but for now, I will leave it as a comment. I will leave it as a comment and also just add this inside of windowrules.conf. Let's do that. Windowrules.conf. Now here you want to open windowrules.conf, windowrules.conf, and in here you want to just copy and paste this. Now, while we're on the topic of window rules, we might as well put that here as well. Windows and workspaces. Just want to take this and paste it here. Okay, you want to paste like so. Like so. Okay, great. Now, what are window rules? Well, window rules, layer rules, and workspace rules are basically rules that you can ask Hyperland to follow when it comes to opening or closing windows, or how certain windows are supposed to look, or how they're supposed to open, other stuff like that, right? Here, let's examine the ones they've already given, and I will show you what other ones that you can add inside of the wiki. Now, for Windows and Workspaces, you have this one. Okay, these two links, basically. Then here, they've given some example window rules that are useful, so let's check this out. Suppress maximize events. So sometimes what happens is some apps, they naturally send maximize requests because they want to be maximized. I've especially noticed this with LibreWolf, not LibreWolf, but actually LibreOffice. Specifically, it was Writer, I believe, the Word one. So with LibreOffice Writer, whenever I've noticed that I've opened it, okay, any LibreOffice app for that matter, suddenly what's going to happen is it's going to swallow up the entire space that the compositor has had reserved for other apps and basically become maximized, although not full screened. And it's a bit annoying, so suppress maximize events, what this is going to do is basically pick up every single window and you're going to suppress the event, which is going to be maximized. So unless you specifically choose to maximize a particular event, okay, a particular window, that's not going to happen. That's it. Then window, this one is to fix some dragging issues with X-Wayland. I personally haven't noticed this, but it is pretty useful. The name is fix X-Wayland drags. Here, you're matching by class and by title. This most likely means all of it. Match X-Wayland equals true. So you're looking for X-Wayland windows specifically. Match float, you're looking for floating windows because of course this is with dragging around. You don't drag around a tile window. Match full screen, you don't want that. Match pin, false. Pin most likely I'm guessing means maximized. So that's that. Then no focus equals true. This is basically the part that's going to fix the dragging issues, I'm guessing. So this is what it does. Then Hyperland run window rule. Hyperland run seems like it would be a app launcher, and that is what it's doing when it comes to this window rule. And of course, the smart gaps that we just experienced and edited. By the way, if you're looking for how to do this in NeoVim, okay, you're gonna have to press Ctrl V. Press Ctrl V, okay, highlight all the spaces that you want to clear, press D, and then you're going to be able to get rid of it. That was how I got it done. Great, so that is for window rules. Specifically, if you want to go much deeper, you can check out the window rules page here. Rules are evaluated top to bottom. Okay, this is for window rules. Then for layer rules, you can see this space over here. Ta-da, there's quite a lot of stuff. So depending on what window that you want to match, turn on or off animations, blur pop-ups, X-ray, animation style itself, above lock, no screen share. For window rules, here you have quite a lot of stuff as well. This is for matching. Okay. Then for static effects, you have all of this stuff. So you can make a window float, tile full screen, open on a particular workspace, suppress event, like activate focus, full screen output, content, quite a lot of stuff. Okay, then we're down to our layout specific settings. So that's going to be inside of dwindle or master. Okay, and here miscellaneous settings as well as input. So let's do that as well. Window rules.conf is done. Now what we're going to be doing is going into layout.conf. So inside of layout.conf, we're going to have the layout settings. So you can just copy and paste this, cut, paste. Now here, pseudo tile. This is the master switch for pseudo tiling. Enabling is bound to mod P in the keybind section below. Just change this to keybind section because it's not below. Okay. Now, if I open a new window, let's say I make it floating, and I reduce the size a little bit, and if I press mod P, it should change it to be pseudo-tiled. Okay, now, there you go. This is enabling pseudo-tiling, which basically means you're going to tile a floating window. That's it. Now, unless you want that to be a specific feature, you can just turn it off with false. Then you have preserve split equals true as well. Now, preserve split, this is much easier if I just show you. So if you turn preserve split false, okay, when you do stuff like this, when you resize a window, it's most likely going to automatically change the layout of a window. Like, let's do it this way, for example. Okay, so basically what preserve split does is, you know when you open windows, they open a certain way, okay? They open a certain way like this, right? So whenever you move to a specific workspace, like you move away from a workspace or you come back, what happens is these windows get rearranged depending on their width and their height. So in order to prevent that automatic rearrangement, okay, you can use preserve split equals true in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. Then master, new status equals master. So you can change this to new status equals master or slave, depending on what you want, whether you want to mimic DWM behavior or you want behavior of its own when it comes to master layout. So that's for the layout.conf. Let's get rid of this stuff as well. Now, as for the miscellaneous stuff, you can just open misc.conf, put that there, misc.conf, you just copy this, cut, paste. Here, you can YY and P, YYP, let's call this, what do you call this? misc.conf. Okay, here you're gonna not find anything because it's not written. There you go, it is written. Now you just have to hyperctl reload. Ta-da, done. Now here, force default wallpaper. This is -1. You either set to 0 or 1 to disable the anime mascot wallpapers. So I'm going to set it to 0 because I do not like the anime mascot wallpapers. Not anime wallpapers as a whole, but Hyperchan is pretty mid, honestly. So I'm going to set that to 0. Disable Hyperland logo. Okay, here, yes, I do not want the anime girl background either, so I'm going to set that to false. Seems like that gets rid of the wallpaper as well, but so it's pretty depressing. Let's actually get it back, right, until we get a different wallpaper. Right, quit. Now, input.conf. Here's where things start to get a little bit interesting if you have different input needs. Cut, paste, call this input.conf. And here too, you're going to cut and paste. Cut, paste here. Now, input. Yeah, this is the keyboard layout, variant, model, options, rules. You can go to input in order to figure all that out. For most of us, if you're on a laptop or even on a normal keyboard and mouse, just like I am here with this monitor, you're not going to need that at all. Now, as for following focus, okay, this focus follows mouse. I'm pretty sure that's what this option is. And so when you set that to 0, it's going to only change focus to a different window when you click on the window, something that you would find on a desktop environment. Otherwise, this is going to change focus whenever you hover over different windows. Sensitivity, here, 0 means no modification. You definitely don't want that. Touchpad, natural scroll equals false. You want to set that to true because if you've been using Windows, okay, you will know that scrolling is not done by, let's say scrolling down is not done by actually holding both your fingers and scrolling down on the touchpad. It's done by scrolling up. So what you're doing is scrolling the content and not the page itself. if that makes sense. That is why if you want the same behavior, you're going to have to set natural scroll to true. Now, as for gestures, if you have a 3-finger gesture, okay, you can change the workspace. So because I have my laptop right next to me, I can use the 3-finger gesture horizontally in order to switch workspaces. And the gesture is honestly pretty clean and works properly, so you can set it up this way. If you wanted to do something like a special workspace, like bringing up a special workspace whenever you swiped up with 3 fingers, you can do that as well. That's actually pretty simple to set up. Let me show you that. Let's look for gestures. Ta-da, you're using lib input gestures with hyperctl if you want to expand Hyperland's gestures beyond what's offered here. So here, let's see what we can do. Wallpapers. Okay, no, this is specifically, let's see, okay, variables. You should find a gestures section here. Now here, workspace swipe distance, swipe touch, invert, quite a lot of stuff. Direction, workspace swipe, horizontal. You can do lots of stuff, as you can see here. Okay, and for device input config, you can set that up here as well. So if you just click here, you'll find stuff like this. And that's pretty much it. For gestures, you can do, okay, yeah, I've actually made a video on it in the past before. So if you want to go deeper in that and actually set it up properly, something like you would have on macOS or Windows, you're of course free to check that video out specifically and figure out and see how it is done. Now, as for a per device config, which is basically what you're seeing here, okay, per device input configs, the name is Epic Mouse V1, and of course, because this doesn't exist, you're going to not see any changes that are occurring here. It's worth noting, only values explicitly changed will be overwritten. You can do stuff like this with it. So we'll just write quit. Then what you want to do is, let's see, set up key bindings. So let's go here, paste this, call this binds.conf. Inside of binds, you're going to want to cut and paste the key bindings section specifically. This part too, I will explain, so don't you worry whatsoever. Just cut this, paste it here, there you go. Now the main mod key, this is a variable. Anything that begins with a $sign in Hyperland syntax is going to be a variable, right? Main mod key is super. You can also set it to alt. Because I'm on a keyboard where the alt key is much easier to reach than the super key, I'm going to set that to alt. Finally, it feels like I'm at home. Oh, wait, what? Okay, hold on a second. I have to write changes here. Yes, finally feels like I'm at home, so that's perfect. Now, super Q is terminal. I don't know why the devs have still not chosen to change this to mod key and return, just like literally every other sane individual is using. But anyway, I'm not going to judge. For some reason, they always keep it to be super Q, but I honestly think that's stupid. Just change it to mod key and return already, goddammit. Okay, once that's done, kill active. This is going to get rid of the app that's currently open. Let's open a bunch of apps. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, $ terminal, right? Something seems to be going on. But if we change it to enter, okay, oh, wow. Yes, I've literally gotten used to pressing the super key that I've forgotten how to navigate. There you go. This works. Then mod key and M. Here, what you're doing is basically executing hyper shutdown. This one we're not going to be using, so no need to worry. Unless you actually have installed hyper shutdown, this command is not going to work. So you can just replace this with a different command, which I will show you later on. Now, if you haven't already installed, we're going to be setting it up later on anyway, so just install wlogout. For me, it's already installed, so I'm not going to. So when you type in wlogout and press mod key and M, you should find the wlogout menu like this. If you lock the screen, it's not going to work because there is no lock screen. That too we will be dealing with later on. Okay, so file manager, mod key and E, that's going to open Nautilus, perfect. Toggle floating, mod key and V. Mod R is going to execute menu, but us OGs know that mod D is what we use to execute the menu because of our D menu days. Here, we can pkill menu. Pkill menu, if that fails, you're going to launch menu. Now let's see whether that actually works. And that does not work because this is a variable. That's fine. Basically, what this was supposed to do is if the menu is already open, okay, you're going to close that, basically kill it. If it's not open, then you're going to open it. But we're not going to have to worry about that, so we'll leave that be. So mod P is going to be for pseudo tiling. So if I, let's say, have this open here, if I wanted to resize the window, ta-da, I can do stuff like this. Mod P is for resizing the window inside of the pseudo tiling layout, the dwindle layout. Then in the dwindle layout, you have toggle split. So if I wanted to do this, this basically changes how the windows are tiled. This is what's going to toggle the split. If I wanted to do that, ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Yes, I can open lots of windows like this. So there you go. You can use Mod J for that. Then this is to move focus with the arrow keys. Of course, you can change this to HJKL. That would be pretty nice if you're using Vim. Let's actually do that. Mod HJ, HJKL, KL, ta-da. Okay, there you go. Switch focus. And of course, it doesn't work, because here is where you're supposed to change it. Main mod. Let's try it with H first. Okay, that works. Which means you're going to want to do that with HJ. Hold on. HL. Up is K. Yeah, HLJK. So now, okay, it's clearly conflicting. So we're going to have to modify that. Let's change this to mod Shift J. Shift J. Now, if I change focus, we'll have a couple of windows. Yeah, seems to be pretty perfect. Awesome. Get rid of this. Now you're switching workspaces with main mod plus keys. That's pretty good. Now here you have a special workspace, which is going to be a scratch pad. The scratch pad currently has OBS open for me, so this is what it looks like. If I wanted to shift a workspace to the scratch pad, just hold Mod Shift S. You're going to shift it there, Mod Shift 2, to go to a specific workspace from there. If you want to scroll through existing workspaces with main mod and scroll, you just hold the mod key, scroll through the workspace. Pretty simple stuff. Okay, then moving or resizing windows with main mod and left mouse button or right mouse button and dragging. Yes, I just did this intuitively because I've been doing this for 4 years. But otherwise, you just press the mod key, and then you lift the window by like this. And resizing you can do with mod key and right mouse. Otherwise, because we enabled resizing at the borders, you can do it this way too. Here are laptop multimedia keys for volume and LCD brightness. For you, most likely this is going to be working if you're on a laptop. Okay, but if you're on an external monitor, okay, you are going to want to use a tool called DDC util. So DDC util -- help. Now that's not even installed, so let's install DDC util. Okay, we'll just install that. Great. Now let's just show you the script that I have inside of my main user. What I have done to control the external monitor brightness instead of having to use the control on the physical monitor itself. So let's go to .local bin. Let's actually just change user. So su user 0. Type in my password. We'll go to config. Not config. It was actually in local. Local bin. It was brightness something. Why am I here? Just cd. Yeah, there you go. So local bin your monitor brightness. This is basically a very simple script where you're increasing or decreasing brightness depending on what the argument is. So this script, it's getting the current brightness and then storing it. DDC util -- bus, it's going to be the bus, which is 14. This you can get by executing DDC util certain commands and then figuring that out. Okay, awk -- okay. So if we actually do it this way, never mind. The clipboard keep copying is not going to work. But anyway, let's just paste. Whoa. Okay. DDC util get VCP10. Get VCP10. Here you get the brightness. Current value is 50. Max value is 100. Perfect, right? Now, what this awk command is doing is basically getting the current value of the brightness. Okay, and it's storing that as current. Now, if the argument is up, then you're going to make the new brightness current plus step. Step is 10. So if you wanted to change the step, you can do that here. Otherwise, if you're going to decrease the brightness, then just change the brightness to current minus step. If all else fails, then just exit with 1. Here, what you're doing is clamping the value between 0 and 100. Here, you're just basically finally executing the command with DDC util set VCP10 $new, which is the new brightness that we have created. Pretty simple stuff. That's pretty much it. Okay, so that is the thing that I have got for DDC util. You can just copy and paste the exact same thing if you have an external monitor and you want to configure brightness like that as well. Now here, how exactly you're supposed to do it? You can just use bind el. bindel, and here you can set this to F3. F3 exec, yeah, exec, dot home slash dot local bin monitor brightness dot sh. Just have to make sure touch mod plus x dot local bin monitor brightness dot sh. Let's create that script. Make sure to add this in, and once you do, you should be able to play. Press F3 or F2 in order to get the brightness to change. Let me show you the actual config file that's inside of my main machine, so you can again see how I have done it and copy it for yourself. Go to my main user, cd config hyper modules blinds.conf. In here, you're going to want to look for brightness. So controlling monitor, my integrated monitor brightness is done with Control Alt Shift. Otherwise, just F5 and F6. Local bin monitor brightness down or up, depending on whichever function that I want to choose. That's it. Now these ones are pretty simple as well. XF86 audio next, pause, play, previous. If you have those keys on your keyboard, you're going to use player CTL in order to control those specific functions. That's it. Let's quit this and just right quit these changes. And now you have a bare minimum Hyperland config file that works perfectly, amazingly in order to get the job done. If you haven't already installed Rofi and player CTL along with wlogout as well as Waybar, you can do them now. And in the next videos, we will be covering how you can go about writing these ones as well. And if you want to just skip the entire process, okay? If you want to learn how to make stuff like custom theme switchers and whatnot that I've shown in my previous videos, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. It's a program that is over 10 hours long that teaches you exactly how you can write Hyperland with every single one of these options explained in so much detail that you literally would not be able to imagine. I also teach you stuff like configuring and troubleshooting stuff, especially when it goes wrong, whether it be with configs or with the way that you're thinking. So if you're interested in that, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. If you liked the video, like. If you loved it, want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe. I will see you next time. Setting up Waybar is actually pretty simple. So right now, as you can see on screen, I have no Waybar currently configured. So in this video, or in this part, what I'm going to be doing is basically going onto the Waybar wiki and showing you how to exactly set up a Waybar completely from scratch without, having anything done previously, okay? There's going to be nothing that's, prepared previously. All I'm doing is just showing each of these steps that I would personally do on my own machine if I was setting something up from scratch, so that you can just copy along with me and get it done just like I'm doing over here. So with that said, first thing, of course, is to open the wiki itself. And when you open the wiki, here you want to go to github.com, Alexei's Waybar wiki. Okay, once you're inside of the wiki, you will find that this is the documentation for Waybar. Now, configuring Waybar is very simple. First thing you want to do is basically decide the number of modules and the modules that you're actually going to want to keep, okay? So creating a Waybar is going to depend, the first step is going to depend on what you're choosing. In order to make a very simple bar, we don't really need that much. I'll open this as a scratch pad, and first thing I'll type, okay, let's come here so you can see it a bit clearer. I'll zoom in. So first thing we're going to have is a clock. Second thing, workspaces. So clock, workspaces, volume, then network, battery, if you want. And you know what? Just for fun, we'll add another 1.5 module. We'll call this media. To have media working if we want. Maybe as a bonus, perhaps, I will also show you how to set up a module that shows you the number of Pacman updates that are being reported by Pacman. So perhaps something like packages to be updated. This one's going to be on Arch because I'm personally using Arch. And if you're using any other distro apart from that, well, I trust that you're going to be able to figure out how to adapt these scripts that I'm going to be setting up to your own particular distro. So let's start. Let's actually get started with this config. We'll move this to the 5th workspace. Okay, we'll zoom in so you can see. Now, you're going to want to make a directory inside of .config called Waybar inside of .config/Waybar. Let's go in here, and now there's actually nothing, but you want to create two files. One will be a config.jsonc and a style.css. The config.jsonc is going to be a file which contains the layout and the structure of our config, okay, of our Waybar. The style.css file is a cascading style sheets file, which basically is going to determine how it's supposed to look. So if you were to draw a web analogy, okay, if you were to make a web development analogy, then your config.jsonc would be your HTML defining how each of the elements of that particular web page end up looking, and the CSS file is going to style how the elements are actually supposed to look. Perfect. Now, let's actually set up a very simple configuration by clicking on that configuration link right there. You want to scroll all the way to the end, and you will find a minimal config right here. So this minimal config is very simple. That's what we're going to be using, config.jsonc. Now we'll just paste this in. So, okay, tell you what, to make it a bit easier for you, I will open this in VS Code so that you can see syntax highlighting. I can also format properly, and so that you can just not have to worry about syntax highlighting in NeoVim, which is not yet configured at all. So let's zoom this in, okay? As for increasing font size, I'll do that for you as well. 16, and maybe even something like 17 to really make it easy for you to see. Okay, then I will also change the font so that you can stare at a pretty font for the remainder of this video. Brains, mono, nerd font, proper. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Very good font. That's great. Now let's set this up. So here, layer is top. I'll walk through this config, okay, line by line, and I'll tell you what each of the lines are doing. And then, of course, we're going to be editing some stuff, so I will explain that as well. So first thing we have is layer. See, in Hyperland, you have two types of windows, if you will, quote unquote. Okay, you have layers or normal windows. So whenever you open a terminal or your VS Code window like this, or even any other window, let's say my OBS window, which is open over here, they're all windows. Now, there's another type of window, if you will, okay, that's actually called a layer. Now, Rofi, or Wofi in this case, is a layer, which means that it's being drawn as an overlay on top of whatever app that I have in the background. And same goes for wallpapers. In wallpaper daemons like SWWW or even Hyperpaper, Waypaper, not Waypaper, but MPV paper, all of those are basically apps that create a layer on top of this layer that you're seeing over here, which ends up becoming a background. Now, same goes for Waybar. Waybar is also a layer because it's not a window, okay? You can ask it to reserve space for from your compositor so that it doesn't end up overlapping the window itself. As in, yeah, the window that you have currently open. That's behavior that can be modified, but in essence, just know that in Hyperland, you have two types of windows. You have either normal windows or you have layers. And because Waybar is a layer, you can choose whether it's on top of windows, if it's displayed on top. Like, let's say you right click over here and then this drop down appears. But then for some reason, in some Qt apps I've experienced, this drop down ends up overlapping the bar. So in that case, you can determine whether the drop down is going to be visible on top of the bar or whether it's going to be visible on the bottom. So by default, it's actually bottom, and that makes sense because any content that you have inside of Windows that coincidentally happens to be overlapping with the bar, you actually want that to be visible and not the bar itself. So it makes sense to keep that at bottom. I can just leave that like so, or if you don't even want to change that, you can leave that as it is, and the default is going to be layer bottom. Okay, next thing is going to be modules left, center, and right. So in Waybar, you have three locations where you can put modules, okay? By default, it's configured to allow you to have modules in the left, right, and center. That's perfect. Now, for us, I'm going to be showing you how to make a centered module style bar that's kind of like a pill at top. Something that's more akin to the bar that you've seen in my previous videos, if you have. Okay, something that's more akin to Apple's Dynamic Island. That looks pretty sweet, and I like that, and most likely you will like it too. So that's what I'm going to be doing. If you want to change the styles, of course, please feel free to do so because this is going to be your machine and I would rather you go with the style that you actually like. So in that case, all of the modules are going to be in module center, and we will be using this class, module center, in order to theme how the Waybar is actually supposed to look. If you don't understand what I meant by that just yet, then don't worry, I'll be showing you how to style that as well, in which case everything will become clear. So yeah. Then here, sway/window, this one we're going to remove because it doesn't even work. We are on Hyperland. Okay, so if I were to put down the thing, that's just going to be clock, then workspace, Hyperland, workspaces. Oh, you know what? Let's put down media as well. Custom media, Hyperland, workspaces. Or actually, let's just keep it to the core stuff for now. If you want to extend it later on with functionality, you can do that. I also teach you how to extend it with functionality in Hyper Accelerator, which is the program. That's the first link in the description. I covered how to make stuff like this from scratch and custom theme switchers and wallpaper switchers and whatnot. So if you're interested, you can click the first link and check it out. So Hyperland Workspaces, let's see what else we had. Clock, media, that's not there, so that's fine. Workspaces, volume, network, battery, and that's it. Let's do pulse audio. Pulse audio, okay, I'm really used to typing in the Vim keys, so I'm just going to get that extension. Install that. There you go. Perfect. I feel right at home with Vim. Okay, so pulse audio, clock, workspaces, volume, network, and last thing is going to be battery because I'm on a laptop. If you're not on a laptop, you can just skip. Okay, so that's going to be module center. I can press Ctrl-Shift-I to format, and that's exactly why I chose VS Code. It's very nice when you can just format without having to worry about changing every single character on your own. So if you want, you can use VS Code as well, just like I'm doing over here. Okay, so we have all the modules mapped out. Now, all that's left is to actually define what the modules are supposed to look like. So let's start with clock. Clock, this is going to look like so. So inside of clock, we have a format here. Let's go to clock in the right side, sidebar in these pages. Here, of course, clock is going to be displaying the clock. We just need the most basic module. We can just grab this example and then paste it like so. To paste that, just end up formatting. Now, what we're going to be doing is not using this clock, okay? But we're going to be making a clock module of our own. The reason why is because while clock gives you, good functionality and whatnot, okay, it doesn't allow you to configure it just like you can configure the date command. So if I actually just type in here date, okay, with the format, I'm pretty sure it was something like colon dash I colon %, something like that. It's basically the format where, okay, never mind. Instead of complicating it with that format, we'll just go with the default clock format. This is going to be in 24 hours. If you wanted to change it to 12 hours, you just have to make that I, %M, %P. That's going to give you AM and PM as well. So I'll keep it back to 24 hours. That should be fine. Okay, max length 25. We don't really need that. Of course, update it every minute, so that works. That's clock done. Next thing, Hyperland Workspaces. This module's definition is going to be found inside of Hyperland. When you click that here, zoom in so you can see. So scroll down. Yeah, here you should find an example config for Hyperland as well. So this is for persistent workspaces. Let's copy this. And persistent workspaces basically means that instead of dynamically rendering workspaces, so let's say I'm only on workspace 1, okay? Let's say I'm on workspace 3. Because there are windows on workspaces 1 and 2, of course, those are going to be displayed in the bar. Otherwise, because I'm on workspace 3, that is also going to be displayed in the workspaces section. But for the other workspaces, 4 to 10, they're not going to be displayed because there are no windows on there and because I'm not on there either. So that is what dynamic workspaces would look like by default. But when you turn on persistent workspaces, what you're actually doing is you're telling Waybar to display workspaces 1 through 5 in this case with these icons, in basically making it such that the icons are displayed even if there are no windows or nothing's going on in that particular workspace, if you're not even on that particular workspace, as you can see here. So we have HDMI A1, and we're not going to be using that because we have only one monitor, 5 workspaces by default on every monitor. That works perfectly fine. Here, instead of making this name icon, you can just change this to name. So it shows only the numbers. If in case you wanted to change the name of a particular workspace, you do that inside of the Hyperland config, but that's not required. So we can just leave that to name. And here, as for format icons, I'll leave this for now. So in case I wanted to show you how to add in particular icons, I'll show you how to do that later, but let's get the base config set up for now. Okay, then we have pulse audio. So let's just do pulse audio. We'll set this up quickly so I can show you a preview of the bar. Okay, let's go here. We should be able to find pulse audio. In pulse audio, you want to scroll down, find that example config, copy, paste that here, format, put in a comma. All of this stuff works. These 2 icons we're going to have to change later. You know what? Let's just change them now. I'll go to nerdfonts.com. Inside of nerdfonts, you're going to want to find an icon. Click on this icons, and here, hands-free, just change that to hands-free. Is there even an icon for that? Nope. Hands-free, you can just get rid of it in that case. Or headset. Headset, we can find an icon, headset. There you go. We'll just get the font awesome icon. Paste that in there. Perfect. Now, for some reason, some freaking reason, stupid reason, there's a cloud over there. I don't know what the heck that's doing, but anyway. You can just get rid of this. Works. And the rest of it should be perfectly fine. Awesome. Next thing is network. So let's go here and we'll also go to network. Click on network here. Scroll down and you should find this example. Copy example and paste the example here. Okay, so in network, before that, let's actually explain Pulse Audio and how exactly it's working. So in Waybar, you can define the format for a particular module, which is going to determine how that module is actually displayed. So here in these curly braces, what we're doing is basically displaying the volume, the percentage after that, because the volume by default is going to be an integer and you want to put a percent after that to communicate to the user that, well, this is actually volume and not just some random integer. So don't get it confused. You're basically telling the user that. Then you have icon. Icon is going to display the icon from format icons, which is this particular array. Okay, so that's what that is. Format Bluetooth. So this is actually predefined inside of the source code for Waybar, which makes it so that inside of Pulse Audio, you have an attribute or whatever, a key that you can call it a key, I guess. A key that lets you change or control what the label becomes, what the label of this module becomes when you're connected to a Bluetooth device. So in this case, the icon is going to be Bluetooth. If you're muted, just have that mute icon. Scroll step equals 1. So this part basically means when you scroll on the module, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to scroll by 1, as in you're going to scroll up or down the volume by 1. And that functionality too has been implemented inside of the source code. So we don't have to worry about the implementation whatsoever. On click, you're going to open Pavu Control, which is this app. It's actually a very useful app. It's an amazing app, which you can configure to change output devices, input devices, configuration, recording, all that sort of fun stuff. So yeah, that works. Then ignored syncs, easy effects sync. This one, you can honestly ignore. It doesn't really matter that much, so no need to break your head about that. Okay, but yeah. Now, put a comma right after this, like so. As for network, here you have the interface. Now, as for the network interface, you're going to want to type in IP-C space A in order to get to know your network interfaces. In my case, that's going to be WLP3S0. That's my network interface. So I'll put that here. Yours might be something like WLO1 or WLAN0. Of course, type in IP-C space A in order to get to know your network interface name. You don't want to get the LO1. The LO1 is going to be common. That's the loopback that everyone has. You don't want that. What you want is this part, WLP3S0. WLP3S0. Perfect. Now, format, IF name, format Wi-Fi. Okay, you can leave that. That honestly doesn't matter because when you connect it to Wi-Fi, format Wi-Fi is what's going to be displayed anyway. So, ESS ID refers to the ID of the network that you connected to. Right now, for me, it would be something like Atlantis or Atlantis 5G. So that's what that would show. Signal strength inside of parentheses and then a percentage sign and a Wi-Fi icon. If you wanted to, you can add format icons and then add in a range of Wi-Fi icons for different signal strength levels that we will configure later. Format Ethernet, disconnected, all that self-explanatory. Same for tooltips, so I'm not going to be explaining that too much, if at all. Then battery, that's already configured, and battery works. Now, we have done the basic configuration. What we want to do, create a new folder, call that scripts, not scripts. It literally sounds the exact same no matter how I say it, but scripts. In here, you want to make a new file and call that launch.sh. Inside launch.sh, what you want to do is this shebang, bin bash, or even if you really want to be a bash nerd, you can make this user bin env bash so that it's chosen by the distro, or yeah, so that basically bash shell is used wherever it is. It might be in user bin bash or even bin bash or whatever else, but let's not complicate it too much. We'll just make this bin bash. So that's going to be the interpreter we'll be using for this script. Okay, now with that said, all we're doing is just something very simple. We'll just pkill Waybar, pkill Waybar. You can even kill all -9, or you can even send a kill -sig user1, so sig user2 Waybar, and that'll also work. Yeah, either of these commands is going to work, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just process kill Waybar. Okay, now once that's done, you want to Waybar ampersand. That's it. So these two commands. So whenever the script is run, it's going to kill Waybar, and then it's going to start Waybar. You can make this a little bit more better in a way by saying if Waybar is already running, then kill it. Otherwise, don't kill. So you can try it this way. If that fails, then you can just type Waybar ampersand. Ta-da. You can do it like this, but let's just keep it the same. Keep it like this. Now you want to open the terminal. Chmod plus X, you want to make this executable. Scripts, launch.sh. Once you do that, you're going to want to set this up inside of your Hyperland keybindings file. So config hyper modules binds.conf. You want to set up reloading, so we'll make it like so. Main mod r, right? Comma r, dot, dot, dot. You're going to exec this script. Script is going to be inside of home slash config hyper, not hyper, but Waybar scripts launch.sh. So you do that. I press mod key and R, there you go. Perfect. It's already starting to look freaking amazing. That is great. Fantastic. Now the only thing is you have to define the number of workspaces per monitor. Okay, which we can do. But first we have to actually write the changes, so let's do that. Now if you reload, there you go. To an extent, it's looking a bit better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. This part. Right now we have 10 workspaces for whatever reason, but we only want to see 5. Let's see what happens when we change this to icon. Reload. Okay, icon certainly, but it's kind of messed up, so let's not do that. Persistent workspaces, 5, that's fine. Let's see. Okay, that works. 5 workspaces by default. So then why are we seeing 10 workspaces? Okay, I'm not going to cut this part out, precisely because I want you to see the way I troubleshoot stuff. So in case you end up getting into errors like this, I want you to copy my thought process and understand how exactly it is that I go about debugging errors. Okay, you can skip ahead if you want to, but if you want to learn how to debug and not just be lost every time something like this happens, watch what I'm going to do. Okay, so there's 2 ways that I can solve this. I can either sit here, trial and error troubleshoot this, or what I can do is I've already set up a Waybar config in my main machine. So you know what, to save you time, I will go ahead and access that, and perhaps if I take a look at that file, I'll be able to tell you what's going on here. So that would be inside. Let's just change users first of all. SU user 0. Okay, here we are. Now I want to open config Waybar config.jsonc. Okay, now in here we have a bunch of modules. Oh, that's nice. So inside of here we actually have 10 workspaces. DP1, any DP1. This is how it looks like, seems like. So let's copy this part. Let's actually just copy the entire workspaces module, and I'll explain it to you what this does. What just happened here? Seems like it's just duplicated for some reason, so... right. Okay, well that explains it, because the WL clipboard doesn't seem to want to work. That's fine, I'll just write it on my own then, that's no problem. So this monitor is DP1. Now on DP1, we're going to have workspaces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now let's just reload. Perfect, we didn't have to do anything else. Okay, so basically, the main issue that we had over here was we had an asterisk picking up every single monitor. But when you did that, Waybar actually got confused for whatever reason and showed us all 10 workspaces. It's definitely not something that we wanted. And so what I've done is basically reduce that to DP1, which is the exact monitor name that I can get by hyperctl monitors. Here it won't work, I don't think. Yeah, of course not. Hyperctl monitors. Of course, here it works, and you will see that this is DP1, which is what I'm using here. And if you want to copy the same behavior, all you have to do is get to know your monitor name, put that here, make an array, so create this thing, this config, and put down the numbers of the workspaces that you want to keep. So 1 through 5 is going to be it for me, because I don't need more than 5 workspaces. And Waybar makes it so that it's dynamic, so in case I wanted an extra workspace, I just hit 6 or 7 or 8, and the workspaces end up showing anywhere, so it's not really that much work. Put down 1 through 5 here, and you're going to be done. Okay, next. We've done this part, everything works. Next thing is going to be styling. As for the icons, well, we can figure that out later. Let's just get right down to business with styling. Now, okay, let's do this. Before that, let's pick out a color scheme. what we're going to be basing this thing off of. Cappuccino's pretty popular. Grapbox is also pretty popular. Okay, guess what? Let's go with Grapbox. Grapbox is pretty nice, and they also have a cheat sheet, if you will, with all the colors that are already there. So let's go with that. So github.com, more heads, Grapbox. I literally remember the URL for the Grapbox GitHub repo. That's how long I've been doing this stuff for. So yeah, dark mode, all this stuff works. So let's use this. Now, as for the colors, we can either make a colors.css file, which is going to hold our colors, or we can just use the individual colors like so. Well, I already have a colors.css file, so I'll be using that. So 0, just copy it over, right? Let's hold on. Yeah. So for me, the colors file is in config, Waybar, colors, custom, Grapbox dark. And if you're wondering what this colors, custom, and all this stuff is about, well, it's related to the theme switcher, which I keep mentioning every now and then. The theme switcher is basically a feature that I have on my main machine, which allows me to press a keybind and pull up a Rofi menu with a bunch of themes like Cappuccino, Grapbox, Nord, and whatnot, and switch between them. That way the terminal changes, the wallpaper changes along with the VS Codium theme, and this basically everything changes. And if I wanted to change wallpapers as well, that is also done by pulling up a simple Rofi menu and getting that done. And that is what I teach you inside of Hyper Accelerator. So that, I don't think I'll be able to teach you here because it's a very long process and that's way outside the scope of this, series. But anyway, if that's something that you're interested in and want to set up after you've done the basic stuff, you can click the first link and check out Hyper Accelerator. I cover it in detail over there. So config. Well, I'm going to have to move this to home user 1. Let's put it, okay, of course. So we'll just sudo cp. Once that's done, we can exit. And now you just have to sudo chown user 1. This thing is going to be, what is that? Grapbox.css. Type that in. Let's just move Grapbox to config Waybar colors.css. It's only going to be 1, so we don't really have that much of an issue. And okay, take a second. I will tell you to pause the video. Just copy this. If you want, you can somehow take a screenshot and then ask your AI model, whichever one that you use, if you do, to give you the copy pastable version of this so you can copy and paste. Basically, all I've done here is I've just taken these colors, VG0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and VG0S, basically all of these colors, and I've put them into a file here. These are literally Grapbox colors, as you can see. They're one-to-one mapped. So yeah, that's it. You can take this and put it inside of this file. That way it's going to be easier. Instead of having to type in the hex codes all the time, you have a colors.css file you can reference. Let's import that. So we're going to be importing colors.css. Put down quotes, colors.css. Perfect. Now, let's start. This is my freaking domain. Let me show you what I can do when it comes to Waybar styling. First, we want to all unset. The reason why you want to do this is sometimes you're going to end up switching. Okay, you're going to end up switching GTK themes. And when you switch GTK themes, sometimes some GTK themes define widths differently than others. And when that happens, okay, your workspace buttons, this is one that I've particularly noticed, okay, your workspace buttons, they end up shrinking or even expanding depending on the kind of GTK theme that you've chosen. And that really becomes annoying, especially when you do pay lots of attention to detail and you're a tinkerer and a ricer. Okay, once you notice that, it's like, it's there. It stares at you every single time you switch themes. Once you build a theme switcher for yourself, and God, it gets annoying as fuck. So I have just made it so that everything's going to be unset, all of the different properties. So we're going to have to set each of them individually, which means that no GTK theme is going to be able to override the spacing that we set ourselves, which is a relief. If you don't want that, you can just leave this. You can just remove all unset and you can do the rest of what I'm about to show you. That way, if you're a bit inexperienced, okay, and somehow you lose track of what I'm saying over here, you'll still be able to get a bare minimum usable bar on your own. But otherwise, just trust me, do what I'm doing here, you're going to get a good looking bar. So, all unset. Let's do this. All unset. Now we have a blank canvas to work with, and what we're going to want to do is, of course, change the font family. In here, I'm going to have a really good looking font, Google Sans Flex. Google Sans Flex. You also want JetBrains Mononerd font for the icons, JetBrains Mononerd font Propo, and you want Noto Sans CJK JP, Japanese font, because I listen to J-pop. Let's also have Noto Sans CJK CJKKR for those K-pop songs as well that you would likely display if you're using the media module. If not, you can pass in these fonts. There's nothing wrong with it. In case there are some emojis as well, you can pass in Noto Sans emoji, but I hate emojis from the bottom of my heart, so I'm not going to do that. Okay. Now instantly you will notice that the icons look a little bit better. For some reason, Google Sans Flex doesn't seem to be recognized. Oh my, okay, yeah. Ah, tough luck. Google Sans Flex is not on this user, so we're just gonna use a different font. Pretty sure Rubik is there at least. Rubik, come on, tell me it's there. Okay, there you go. Rubik is there, so at least that works. Perfect. If you want to get Rubik, if you're on Arch, it's a very simple process. You just have to, let's look for Rubik. You will find TTF Rubik somewhere. Somewhere here. TTF Rubik VF, or even TTF Rubik. Pick either one of these, and you're gonna find that you're able to get the font family just fine. Once you install that, you can check whether it's there by going to NWG look. Click in this part. You want to look for Rubik. You'll find this beautiful, sexy looking font right here. If you want another font, you can go to fonts.google.com. You'll find plenty of fonts there. Okay. Get the font file, extract the font file, extract the zip file that they give you. Put all the fonts inside of, where is that? Dot fonts, or even dot local share fonts there as well. Put that inside of a folder there, and you're going to be able to access it. If you understood it and you can get fonts in your own, well done. If not, just use Rubik with the package that I showed you, you'll be good enough. Okay, this is done. So to make things a bit easier to see, we're going to add in some spacing. So let's do that. Spacing. Of course, this is a key, so spacing. Spacing, I want to make sure that this is a, let's start with 18. 18 is what I'm using, and it works pretty well. As you can see, the modules are properly spaced out, and we can see something at least. So that's nice. Now here, in order to make things a bit easier to see, let's do this. So window, yeah. Window, hashtag Waybar, background color, we'll set that to red. And when you reload, you can see a red bar. The reason why I set it to red is so that the bar is actually easier to see. That's nice. But we're not going to be doing this way. Instead, what we'll be doing is using modules center. So modules center, set background to red. If I reload, only module center is made red, which means that we can achieve that dynamic island style look in not very long whatsoever, which is beautiful. Okay, so there's a bit more trimming down and tinkering that we're going to have to do on the side of the config file. But first, let's get it looking proper so that we can do that later on. Okay, so module center, we've set that to red. Now what we want to do is give it a background, a proper background, some padding, and margin. So right now it's stuck up against the screen. Okay, let's make things easier for ourselves. We'll get a light themed wallpaper, or actually set the wallpaper. I was planning to do this later on, but it seems like this is actually the best time to do that. So let's go get a lighter themed wallpaper, which will make it easier for us to see the bar as we're developing and working on it. So let's do that. Go to wallhaven.cc. We'll be able to find plenty of good looking wallpapers right here. Let's get this light theme. Looks pretty freaking amazing. Save images. We'll put that inside pictures. Oh, also, all of these folders are missing here. They're supposed to be downloads, pictures, documents, and whatnot. That's a very simple fix. I'll show you. All you need is like one command to fix that. xdg user does update. Should actually run automatically, but in case it doesn't, you can do that, and automatically you will find all of the directories right here. So that's perfect. Set this to scroll down. Perfect. This looks good too. What else? Anything else? Yeah, we'll put this inside of pictures there. Now, let's just install swww, because that's what we're going to be using for wallpapers with those sweet transitions and whatnot. swww. Once you install that, I already have it, so I'm not going to do that. swww daemon ampersand disown. Do that. Okay, right now the daemon is running, but there's no wallpaper, so it's just going to be blank. You also want to put this inside of your Hyperland auto start file. So modules autostart.conf. In here, you want to exec once. We'll add Waybar. For that, we'll also add the wallpaper. swww daemon. Amazing. Put in that. Perfect. Now if we swww -- transition type, call that wipe. Okay, then dash dash transition. Oh, transition FPS 144. What else? IMG, and then we'll pass that in. So IMG, pictures, Wallhaven. Let's make this floating so you can see the transition we're talking about. Okay. I'll hit enter and just watch. Wow. Okay. Well, seems like we're going to have to do that with a different transition type. But anyway, yeah, the principle, underlying principle is the same. I'll show you how to set this up properly, as in there's nothing to set up, it's just a command. But I'll show you the proper arguments in a future video. But for now, you've got the wallpaper set up, so that's amazing. Great. Now, is this even Grovebox? Oh yeah, right. We were going with a Grovebox theme. Oh, okay, this works. Yeah, this works because it's light themed enough for us to see. Okay, no, it's fine. We'll keep this for now. We'll change it later on. Okay. Now you want to add in margin. You can do it this way. You can either give module center margin or you can give it to the Waybar module. So I'll just do it this way. Window, hashtag Waybar. Let's give it margin top. I'll call that something like 20 pixels. Should be good enough. What the heck? Yeah. Okay, it does not seem to work. Well, that's no problem whatsoever because we can choose margins this way as well. Just type in margin dash top, call that 20 as an integer. It should be fine. Reload. There you go. Plenty of margin. Now, let's do some minor tuning for decorations here. Gaps in, gaps out. We gotta increase this way more. Make it 20. That works. Make this 10. That works. Now the shadows make it seem as though this is too much. But is that actually right? Margin top 20, 20. Yeah, that works. Yes. Okay, that works. Perfect. So we've done that, which is great. Now what we want to be doing is making sure we give this a little bit of padding, 10 pixels, see what that looks like. Way too much, so we don't do that. 2 pixels. Okay, good enough. I guess you can call that good enough. 2 pixels. Let's put 4 pixels of padding on the left and right. That works as well, but that's too little. Let's change that to 8. Reload. Okay, 8 pixels works. Let's add in a border radius. Border radius, let's make that 99 pixels so we get that pill shape immediately. Perfect. It's already coming together. Look, making a wayboard is honestly really, really simple. You don't have to put that much thought and effort into it. Okay? Okay, perfect, perfect. That works. Looking like a proper pill style bar right now. Amazing. Okay, so that's done. Now what we want to be doing, you know what? For Rubik specifically, I feel benefits with a lesser font, like, what do you call that? Spacing, letter spacing. So let's reduce that. Letter spacing, -1 pixels. Okay, that works, but it looks a bit too cramped. So I'll make that 0.5 pixels. 0.5 pixels. I guess that does not support, interesting. 0.9? No, okay, never mind. It's just bad with it because it's not that bad. Works. Now for clock. Clock, hashtag clock. Now in here, you want to change font weight. Font weight, you can make that something like 600. In Rubik, that's pretty thick, almost too thick. So we won't be using 600. Instead, we'll be using something lesser, 500. Okay, 400 is regular, so there's no point in that. 500 works pretty well. Let's go with that. 500 works. Great. Now, let's also change the background. Change that to BG1. That's going to be this thing, so that works pretty well. Amazing. Next thing is going to be the workspaces, of course. So hashtag workspaces. Let's give this a background color of red so we identify what we're dealing with. Now, what you want to do is you want to workspaces button. You want to give background color of blue, let's just say. Now workspaces button dot active. In this case, background color, change that to green. Now, okay, you're starting to see stuff come to life. Very good. However, that's not just good enough yet, because what you want to do is you want to give this a bit of padding. So let's do that. Workspaces, let's give it some padding. 10 pixels, that's going to be too much. I already know that. So I want to give the button some padding on its own. So padding, 10 pixels. Again, too much. Looks a bit cleaner, I guess you could say that, but it is still too much. We don't need that much padding at all. 2px, 4px, does that work? I guess you can say that it works. Amazing. Okay, that works. Let's set the min width to something like 0.9, no, 2 rem. 2 rem, 2 rem is too much. Set that to 1.5 rem. Rem just basically means relative EM. It's another unit you can use. So don't sweat it too much. Just use the unit like I'm using. If not, you can just use pixels. That's no big deal. Okay, now what I do is this. The red you cannot see, of course. Let's add in some padding as well. 2px, 4px. Great. You can actually see something. Now you want to add in... hold on a sec. Okay, here's where changing the scale comes in clutch. Hyper modules. Here, monitors.conf. The reason why is because I want to see something and I'm not sure I can see it at this scale. So let's make that 2. Things are going to get very big for a second, so don't mind. Okay, now, yeah, I was right. There needs to be a lot more margin between the top part of the red thing, as in just basically this bar background and the red thing. There needs to be more margin there, so let's get that done. Oh, we'll reduce this for a sec. Okay. Now, the top thingy, how do you control that? Okay, let's add in a margin. Top, bottom, that should be, let's say 2 pixels. Left, right, we don't need any. Does that work? Let's see. Let's change this to something like 12. That should give us a definitive answer. Okay, that works. I guess not much else is needed. This works pretty well. Okay, fine. Now what you want to do? Border radius, make that 99 pixels. You may turn that into a pill. Okay, it's way too much. What is that? Hold on a second. Okay, no. This works. I want to add in a border radius of 99 pixels here as well. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Perfecto. Okay, add in a margin. You don't want top and bottom. You only want left and right. 2 pixels there. Perfect. Let's go. Things are starting to fit together. Amazing. Let's add in a transition as well. So transition all 0.3 milliseconds. 0.3 seconds. You can even make that 300 milliseconds. 300 milliseconds. Ease in out. Okay, reload. Now we have an awesome transition. So that works nicely. There is one issue, which seems to be that the bar is... Okay, but that we can fix. That's fine. Is there anything else that we need to do? I don't think so. So let's call it a day here. As in, we're not going to end the video just yet for this particular module I meant. Let's change min width to something like 50 pixels. See what that does. Of course, that's going to change min width. Okay. Let's add min width again, but I don't want 50. I want something like 7 pixels, just enough so that it's round. Okay, that's fixed it. Amazing. Perfect. 10. Okay, 10's actually making it look round, which is awesome. But it seems to be too much because it's moving around. It's still moving around. Interesting. Well, it's not like it's that big of an issue, so we'll leave that be. Change the color. Background color, let's change it to BG2. Perfect. Okay. Now what you want, the button, we're going to change that to BG3. Okay, awesome. Button active, you want to change the color to at BG1. Perfect. Now you want to change font weight. What are we going to make that? We're going to make the font weight something like 500, because that works. Awesome. Yep. But it's animating. Okay, we don't want that. Transition none. Does none even work? Yeah, seems like. Okay, wow, that works. Not bad. Okay, that's nice. Very nice. Okay, got it. Okay, that's great. So we've done that part. Is there anything else? Yep, we need to change workspaces empty. Workspaces button empty. I believe that's what it is. Let's see here. Okay, I gotta zoom out. Hold on. Let's zoom out here. 1.25. Oh, not that. 1.25. Okay, perfect. Now, what are we going to do? What we are going to do is go to Waybar Wiki. Yep, let's go to Waybar Wiki here. What we're looking for is the class. Where's that? Hyperland. Yeah, class for Workspaces. Wait, is it what? Yeah, it is Workspaces. So it is, yeah, I was right. Button.empty. Now here, what you want to do is this. Set, yeah, color. Change the color to gray 0. And perfect. That works amazingly. Or does it? You need to move this below so that the rules apply in the correct order. Okay. Now if you reload, yes, amazing, amazing. This works. Perfect. Now is there anything else? Yes, there does seem to be something else, which is going to be volume. Okay, volume, network, as well as battery. Now for this one, you can decide whether you want to go full ultra minimal on the bar or whether you actually want some information to be displayed. Either way, we're going to set this up. So we've done most of the work for this bar. It looks pretty freaking sweet. As you can see, you have lots of cool transitions and animations. That works perfectly fine. Next thing, we're going to be tightening up the screws when it comes to the config. So let's do that. For pulse audio, pulse. There you go. Calm. God. Okay, here. Let's see if we reduce the volume, what happens. Okay, to an extent it works, it reduces that. Ah yeah, tooltips. We're gonna have to change that as well. Let's look that up. How to change tooltip background in Waybar. Should find it's a pretty simple setting. Tooltip, yeah, it's literally called tooltip, so let's make it that. We'll put that right here, tooltip. Give it a good background color of BG1. Give it a color of @FG. Oh, now come to think of it, we actually haven't given it color, so @FG. There you go. That's it. This one change is enough to completely redo it. And there you go, that works. Let's add in some margin so it's not sticking to the bar. Okay. Add some margin, 10 pixels. Oh, let's also add some padding. We'll give it 10 pixels of padding as well. Add in a border radius, 99 pixels. Reload. Now if you hover, okay, it looks pretty sweet, but that's too much. So we don't want 99 pixels. 12 pixels should work. And yeah, that works pretty neatly. So that's nice. Is there anything else? Border. Oh yeah, I can add a border if you want to. Margin. Tooltip label or tooltip box. In case we want to add in a margin to the box, tooltip box, you add the margin over there. Let's put that like that. Now, okay, that does not quite do what I was expecting it to, but I don't think that's really that big of an issue. Get rid of that. Let's see. Huh, okay. Let's get rid of this here. Reload. Hey, you know what? It's good enough. It is definitely good enough to the point where I ain't complaining whatsoever, so that's nice. A clock. I want to get rid of the tooltip, so tooltip not required. Tooltip, or actually tooltip format, turn that to an empty string. I'm not sure if that's going to get rid of the tooltip though. Okay, of course it's not. How do you disable tooltip? How to disable tooltip? Disable tooltip in Waybar. Okay, it's a boolean, so okay, that works even better. Tooltip, we're gonna set that to false. Reload. There should be no tooltip for the clock, which is the case. Amazing. Let's go. Now for pulse audio, let's see. Format muted. That's nothing. Where does it get the icons from? Ah, here. Okay, that works. Let's get some new icons. Close this. Close this. Nerdfonts.com. Now, as for the icon design language, whatever you want to call it, you can use inside of NerdFonts. You can either use Font Awesome or you can use material icons, material design icons. Depending on what you prefer, you can use whichever one you want. Also, for this thing, for workspaces, we gotta reduce the thing a little, you know? What's that? Make that 3 pixels. Does that work? Yeah, I guess you can say that that works. Awesome. Yeah, it doesn't look half bad. Okay, neat. Here, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Okay, icons, volume. Looking for volume icons, so font awesome volume icons. I'm pretty sure that's what we already have. But anyway, let's just check, double check. What's that? That was volume down and volume high. I swear to God, it looks like it's literally the exact same. Well, I guess that's fine. Let's reduce the volume. Where's that? This one is supposed to be it. Or is it? I think my earphones are connected. What? What? Hold on a sec. What? What volume is being controlled here? Hold on. Okay, Raptor Lake display port 1. Ah, right. Okay, this one. And looks to be, to me, to be pretty good. If I mute. Hold on. Yeah, mute. It just disappears. That's not what we want. Muting should be a different icon. Where's the mute icon? It's not here. Wow. Okay, now it should be here. Yeah. This is it. Just call it this. Now it's unmuted, so it doesn't show, but yeah, this is what it's supposed to be like. Or you can add in a muted label. Muted. Oh, reload, of course. Muted. Perfect. You add in one more space. Yes, amazing. Yes, 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 yes. This is good. This is amazing. Let's go. Okay. You want to add this as well. Volume off. In case it's super low. Put that down. So you have 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Or is, yup. That's it. That's it. So amazing. Put that as something like, huh. Yeah, that works. 55%. Okay, so we've done with the volume. Next thing is going to be the network. Now we're going to get rid of the signal strength because that looks lame. Don't want that. Instead, what we want is format icons for signal strength. Format icons, it's an array. Here, let's look for Wi-Fi. Ta-da, you find plenty of Wi-Fi icons. Now for signal strength, the only ones we have are of material design, so we're going to suck it up and use those. Honestly, I don't think there's much to suck up because these look pretty neat, but because we're using nerd, isn't not nerd, but what do you call those fonts, man? Font awesome icons elsewhere, I thought it would be neat if we could get that, but it's fine. Let's fill this in. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. 3. What's that? 3. And then 4. That's full. That's all of it. Now put in a comma. If you reload, of course it doesn't show. Of course. Add this in. Icon. Yes, there you go. Perfect. This is why I live for this shit. Let's go. So Atlantis 5G shows you that Wi-Fi icon. Pretty amazing. Next thing is the battery. And battery works pretty good as well. I mean, not like you need much else. There was something else that we can do with this, you know. We can turn the battery icon into a kind of pill. Do we do that here? Is that okay for a beginner? Okay, you know what? Can't hurt to try. So let's do that. If it ends up being too complicated, I'll just tell you so you can avoid that and instead just keep this config. Otherwise, just follow along with me. It's going to be fun implementing this. Okay, I want to get rid of the icon because we only need the capacity, not even the %. Only need the capacity because we're going to do some magic. We're going to do some jujutsu in order to get this working right. Oh, I can already see how sexy this is going to look. Let's go. Okay, battery. Battery, you want to put down a background color. Let's make this green. Green is my accent and it looks pretty neat, so that's nice. Want a margin, of course. Margin 4 pixels. Yes! Oh, this is going to be... Oh, it's working. It's already working. Yes, let's go. 5 pixels. Oh, this, bro. Yes, but then the thing is, Okay. We can make it into that pill style shape, but you got to keep one thing in mind, okay? We can do that, but it's not going to reflect the actual level of the battery. See, in my AGS setup, what I've done is I've made the battery icon into a sort of gradient that is going to be filled whatever the battery percent currently is. So if it's 80%, the battery icon, this background is going to be filled 80% of the way. But here, I don't think there's any way for the CSS to talk to the JSON. So how are we? Okay. Tell you what, if you're going to implement it this way, the only thing you're going to have to do is deal with the fact that it's not going to be dynamic, in the sense that if the battery goes down, it's not going to adapt to the level of the battery like you can in AGS. Okay, but I guess you can it's still worth a try. So let's see. And do it some. But there's still one other thing that we can do. We can control the color. Yeah, we can control the color of this battery background depending on whether the battery is in certain ranges or not. So at least we can pull that off. That's not that bad. Okay. Okay, that's nice. Padding. Top, bottom is fine. You just want left, right, 4 pixels of padding. That works. Of course, add in a border radius, and you can immediately tell the kind of look that I'm going for. Border radius. Let's make that 99 pixels. Oh my god. Goodness me, this looks good. Yes. This is why I live. I tell you, this is why I live. The racing. Okay, yeah. This looks pretty sexy already. I haven't even done much. Font weight. Change that to 500. Anything else? Of course, the color. Change color to BG1. Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. I want to reduce the letter spacing. Letter spacing, -1 pixels. You do that, reduce letter spacing so it fits properly. Amazing. Is there anything else? Yes, there is something else. Quite a lot. Oh, wait. Top, bottom only. You don't want it on the left and right. Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah, now it's starting to fit. Actually, let's see if we can increase this further. Oh my god. Let's go. This looks good. Okay, 80. This works. Yes, amazing. Now we can control the color of this depending on the battery level, if I'm not wrong. So let's do that. Go to battery. Battery. Da, 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 da. Good. Inside of the styles section, we should be able to find, yeah, status is the value of that in lowercase. Oh my god. Okay, okay. Huh. Interesting. I just figured something out. So because we can, So at different battery percentages, like in different ranges, we can set different colors. So let's say when it comes to 20%, we can turn this red. So at least let's do that. Right now, you won't be able to see it because the battery's at 80. I'm going to wait for it to die down a lot, but until then, you can at least set this up at least. So battery.status. So status is the value of sys class power supply. BAT0 in my case. BAT0 status, comma. Of course. Have to cat. It's not shot. Wait, what? Oh, don't tell me. What the hell is this? Oh no, this does not seem to be what it is. State can be defined in the config. Status and state. Hold on. Let's see here. Let's see what this is on about. States. Every state consists of a name and a value. State can be. Oh, this is what I was. Yes, this is what I was looking for. Exactly what I was looking for. Yes. Yes. This is amazing. This is amazing. Let's go. Okay, let's put this down here. States. Warning, critical. Let's make. Oh, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So warning is going to be 30. Critical is going to be 15. That works. Battery dot should be able to find dot state. Battery dot warning. Set the background. Come on. Set the background color to red. Wait, no. Warning, you want that to be yellow. And battery dot Critical. Set the background color to red. Yes, this is what we were looking for. Amazing. Genuinely amazing. 50%, even 40% is good enough. 30 is when you're starting to get into deep territory. Like I said, you really want to charge your computer territory. So that works. Amazing. Yes. Literally, spontaneous configs, they end up giving you the most serendipitous results. I'm literally spitting dictionary words, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, this was very nice. I definitely love this. I'm going to be using this for my main config. Okay, so we've set that up. Is there anything else? 55% for the volume. Oh yeah, we gotta let's go to the config. Save this. For volume, we gotta do something else here. Yeah, Bluetooth as well. Just do that. Wait a sec. What the hell is that icon? I don't need that. That's what you need. Yes, that works. Okay, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Well, for now, this looks pretty good and it works amazingly well as well. So is there anything else that we need in this bar? Well, okay. If I was nitpicking when it comes to this bar, I would tell you that the only thing is this thing. As in, whenever I switch between one workspace and the other, okay, you see that the entire bar shrinks and then unshrinks. It gets kind of annoying once you've noticed it, and I don't really like that, so perhaps I'd take the effort to fix that. But if not, this bar is honestly perfect. Like, look, we pulled off something like this in Waybar, which I didn't think I would actually do that. Anyway, yeah. Okay, let's add in some more margin for the workspaces, because it's in desperately some need. Okay, it's a bit thicker, but I guess you can deal with it. It's not that thick. Yeah. Okay. Not bad. Okay. Yeah, is that... Hard to say whether it's actually doing something. Hold on a second. Okay, it is doing something, but it's too unnoticeable. 3 pixels. Okay, I guess 3 pixels is fine. Yeah, with this you can definitely live with. Okay, cool, cool. As I was saying, okay, let's refer to my actual config inside of my main machine, because I fixed it there, at least to a certain extent. It's 99% fixed over there. User 0. Okay, so config, Waybar. Now it's going to be in style.css. Here. Now let's see what exactly is different compared to my original. So we're importing colors, font family, all that's good stuff. Waybar, I don't really need that. Module center, it's all the same thing. What have I done here? 6 pixels and 18 pixels of padding. Interesting. Okay, let's see how it actually changes. 6 pixels and 18 pixels. I seem to have done it. Oh, I see. I mean, oh, okay, that's another way to do it. Well, yeah, that is certainly another way. We got basically the same functionality of using margin, but instead of having to do that, okay. Let's reduce this to 3 because it's still too much. Does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay, fine. Custom media, we don't have that. Workspaces, yes, you want to reduce the font size. The min width, I think, is how I fixed it. Min width, 100 pixels. Does that get better? No, it doesn't. Okay. Font size, 0.95 rem. This depends on scale. So there I use... Does it work? I guess it does work. Okay, foreground. Okay, background color, BG2. Padding, 2 pixels forward. There's no... Huh. Interesting. There's no margin. Wait a sec. What? Yeah, no, we need that. Definitely need that. What if we make this 4? Where is it increasing margin? Oh no, I think it's doing... Oh, right, this is the same place. So, no, not that. Workspaces button. Okay, 0. Okay, wow. The numbers are literally completely different from what I'd expected from here to there. Oh, yes. Okay, this is another way to do it. That's also nice. Top, bottom is nothing. Right, left is 0 and 5. Okay, that also works. Not bad yet. We can pull that off as well. Yeah. Then border radius, min width 10 pixels. I have a strong feeling this is it. Oh, Come on. Oh, seems to be quite tricky to get this right. Screw it. If it doesn't work, I'm literally gonna let it go. Margin. Okay, that's nice. Button active. Green, BG1, min one. Huh? Hold on. I set min height. Why did I set min height? That makes no sense. Okay. Okay, I guess. Yeah, that's it. Okay. You know what? It's good enough. And if it's bothering you as well, you can look for a fix online. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find with just some looking around. It doesn't really take that much. But anyway, yeah, that's all that we did in order to set up a beautiful looking Waybar like this one over here. Something that seems like it would only be possible in AGS, we have pulled off in Waybar. This is how you do something like this. And you know what? Just to top this off, let's look for a, you know what? Never mind. We'll do the theming and the wallpaper and whatnot in a different video, one future down the line. So if you liked the video, if you followed along until the end and made a Waybar just like this one, or one that you have taken inspiration from this one, done on your own, I'm extremely proud of you. Okay, good job. Fantastic job. If you liked the video, hit like. And also, if you want to learn how to make custom theme switchers and wallpaper switchers and learn how to write scripts like these on your own and whatnot and be just as proficient as I am with Wayboard, literally knowing the URL for the freaking wiki as well as Gruffbox's wiki as well by heart. If you want to get to that level of proficiency, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator right now. And if you liked the video, you can hit like. If you loved it, want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. See, customizing Rofi and making a config on your own can be done in one of two ways that I've discovered, okay? You can either make a config completely from scratch and write every single line by yourself, or you can look through the internet in order to find a couple of really well-made themes that you can modify to your own taste, to your own personal, configuration and however you want it to look. That way, you will be saving lots of time and also do not have to learn the entirety of how Rofi works just so that you can get a basic app launcher working. The method that I'm going to be showing you is the method where you're going to get something that's already been pre-made very well, okay? Adapt that to your own setup so that you can get started with an app launcher without having to learn the entire syntax of Rofi and basically get a PhD in it. So let's start. The theme repository, which I'm going to be referencing in this video, is going to be one that is this. So github.com, ADI 1090X. Here it's going to be Rofi themes. So this repo has quite, hold on a sec. Is that not it? It's probably Rofi. Yeah. So this repo over here by this guy, okay, it has a really large collection of Rofi-based custom applets, launchers, and power menus. So basically for us, this means that we are able to get the functionality of Rofi and make it look pretty and whatnot without having to break our heads about how exactly to go about configuring it, which is quite amazing. So what do we actually do now? Well, let's check out the different types of launchers that we have here. Now, what I'm going to be showing you is setting up launchers only. If you want, you can set up different applets. Like if I just zoom in here for a second. And this kind of zooming, by the way, you're going to have to do with a trackpad. So if you're only on a mouse, you'd be better off just right clicking and opening the image in a new tab. You can do it this way and then zoom in. Otherwise, if you're on a, laptop, what you can do is you can put your fingers on your trackpad, your index and your middle finger, basically just pinch. When you pinch, the screen is going to zoom in and zoom out depending on how you're pinching and how much you are pinching. So that's pretty nice. So I don't have to actually open the image in a new tab in order for you to see. Now, this one is for screenshots, pulse audio and stuff. Type 2, these are basically different types of the same applets and power menus. So it's basically the same thing, but then just in a different design. And if you want, you can set it up that way. So that would be for, what do you call that? Applets. And for power menus, well, for power menus, I'm going to be showing you how to set up the app called wlogout. For now, this is what it looks like. If I press mod key and M, it should pull up wlogout, okay? You can make it look a lot better, as I have in my other videos. But for now, we will just keep using Rofi and not, as in, we'll use Rofi for the app launcher instead of the wlogout menu, the logout menu. So let's start. Launchers, as you can see, this is what they look like. If you want to see all the different types of launchers, inside of the preview section, you'll find type 1, type 2, type 3. Okay, all of these ones, they look pretty fantastic. You can pick any one, honestly, and you wouldn't be able to go wrong with it. Now here, style 2 also works. If you want to show your wallpaper and perhaps a bit of personality in your app launcher, then you can go with something like style 7, because that's where you can select a wallpaper or an image to be displayed. Like style 7, that works pretty well. Style 5 also works well. Let's see what else. Yeah, even in type 6. Now, to make things easier and simpler and not complicate it too much, I will be going with a simpler type and a simpler style. That way you don't have to worry about images and then image paths not working properly and then all of that garbage doo-doo stuff. Okay, so let's see here. Which style would be pretty nice to have? Okay, style 1. Style 1 looks pretty minimal. We can configure it that way. So type 2 style 1. I will be going with that. If you want to pick another one, please feel free to do so, because in the end, this is going to be your computer anyway. Okay, now let's do this. So ls, this is what we have so far. And let's see, we can make a, let's actually just go to /tmp. Now the temp folder inside of Arch Linux specifically, I have tested it out in Arch Linux. Whenever you clone something or make a repository or whatever in here, okay, it's going to be refreshed and basically deleted and made again every time you reboot the system. So most likely you're not going to be using this Rofi repository all that much once you get your main theme up and running, your main app launcher theme. So it might make sense to put it inside of TMP, but we might actually end up using it later on, just in case we're adding extra features and whatnot. So I will clone it inside of the main repo. So let's click here, clone. You want to install Git if you have not already with yay-s git. Once you've installed Git, you will want to git clone depth 1. Basically, you're making a shallow clone, which basically means you're only getting the latest commit and not the entire commit history, which is what we want. We do not want the entirety of how many ever commits that have been made to this place, because yeah, that's kind of useless. So let's just git clone depth 1, Rofi. As you can see, that drastically reduces the size of the repository that's supposed to be cloned, which means that it's going to be done much faster. So let's go into Rofi. You will find setup.sh, readmes and files, fonts, and all that sort of stuff. If I just exa-l, exa is an app you can use to basically list files in a prettier format. You can do it this way, or exa like this. This also works. It just adds colors and makes stuff look pretty, so you can use that if you want to. Nexa-l, let's also, okay, you know what? Okay, it's fine. We'll just use ls for now and deal with it until we change the terminal stuff later on. So here we have applets, colors, config, images, launchers, and all that, so on and so forth. Now, what we want to do is go inside of the launcher section, and here you find the particular launcher that you want. So ours is going to be inside of type 2, and inside type 2, you will find that there are a bunch of different styles that you're seeing over here. The launcher.sh, and inside of shared, if I were to ls, you'll find colors.rossi and fonts.rossi. That's pretty nice. Now, what we are actually looking to do is basically, let's move this on this side. Yeah. Now, what we are trying to do is set this up for ourselves without having to use that install script, which is going to install literally everything. So there are a couple of ways to do it. If you want, by default, I'm pretty sure it places stuff for Rofi instead of .local share Rofi, but we're not going to be doing that. Instead, what we will do is just go to make a directory instead of config. We'll call that Rofi, and let's just cd to config Rofi. Now that we are in here, we're going to want to do some stuff. And that stuff is going to be as follows. Let's see here. Let's go back. Okay, great. Now, let's just try launching the launcher so that we know that it works. nvim launcher.sh, so this is going to be type 2 style 1, that's perfect. /launcher, launcher.sh, maybe we have to, oh, hold on. Ah, right, those are 2 dots, of course it won't work. Okay, here it says, fail to open theme because there is no such file or directory. That's interesting. Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Because the launcher.sh is pointing to the wrong place. That would actually be inside of Rofi launchers type 2. Now, if we run the command, still doesn't work. Home user 1 Rofi launchers. That's okay. ls Rofi. Okay, it's inside of files. Files. Inside of files, it's going to be inside of launchers. Okay, so files is an extra thing. So let's get that. Rofi files launchers should work. There you go. It works. Now the only thing is, the colors in the fonts because that's the only thing missing, and we can set that up later on. But for now, we actually know that it works, so it's pretty nice. Now, what are we going to do? Let's see here. Now, what you want to do is make a directory, or we can just, if we're going to be using only one particular theme, which for the purposes of this video and this showcase, which I will be doing, I will be using only type 2 style 1. So that's fine for me. Let's see here. Yeah, we just want to copy Rofi files launchers and type 2 style 1. Yeah, style 1 dot Rossi. I copy that here. Okay, you have that. You also want to, let's see what's inside of the launcher.sh file. Let's open launcher.sh. Inside here, you will find directory theme. Okay, so that's a theme. That's the directory. That's fine. Okay, fine. I'll just copy that as well. You want to copy this command too, but instead of style 1, we'll be copying launcher.sh. You also want to copy the shared folder. So let's do that. Type to your shared, make sure to put a -r so that it clones it properly. Okay, let's open launcher.sh. Directory is going to be home.config Rofi here. Let's see, it'll just be here. Okay, that works. Theme style 1. Okay, config Rofi style 1. Now if we /launcher, perfect, that works. The only thing is, let's see here, style 1.rossi. Okay, import shared colors and shared fonts. Okay, now that should work, but that does not seem to be working for some reason. Let's see the problem. And then shared colors and fonts inside of colors. Of course, the colors are not going to work because they're missing literally. So let's get the colors working properly. Let's see what color options we have. And here, if we ls colors, okay, do we have Grovebox? We do. Let's copy that. Let's make a new folder. Get out of here. Okay, colors. Inside of colors, what you want to do is just copy home/Rofi files launchers. No, not launchers. Yeah, files, colors. You're gonna get grovebox.rc. You want to copy that to colors. Okay, now if I ls colors, you will find Grovebox. So that works to an extent. Let's open colors here. Config Rofi colors. You're gonna have to change that to Grovebox. Also, feel free to delete all of these comments. Okay. If I delete a couple of them here, it's not going to be uniform, so I'm just gonna leave it be. Grovebox colors. Okay, the colors have been set. Let's try launching again. Perfect. That's basically everything and how it's supposed to work. Only thing to be changed is going to be inside of fonts. So shared, let's call that fonts.rossi. Font, you want to change this to ISFCA nerd font proper. Or if you want, you can even change it to a sans serif font. Something like, let's just go with Google Sans. Okay, it's not even here. Screw that. Rubik 11. Is that going to work? Well, hold on. I have to launch it this way. Okay, well, it works to an extent, if you will, because take a look at this icon. It's kind of messed up. Okay, no need to deal with that messed up icon, because we can do this. We can add in, what's that called? JetBrains, yeah, JetBrains, mono, nerd, font, proper, 11, launch. Okay, that works pretty well. The icon isn't messed up anymore, which makes it look beautiful. That's pretty awesome. You can also change this to 10. If I execute, okay, that works pretty well. If not, you can actually do it this way as well. You can just change the font to ISFCA nerd font propo 10, and yeah, this also looks pretty good. Now, if I wanted to launch something, we're just gonna have to bind that. So let's do that. Let's do the binding. Be inside of config hyper modules. We have a programs.conf. We do. It's gonna be inside of bash. But I'm not quite sure if it's going to work this way, but let's see what happens. Bash, okay, it's going to execute menu. Okay, in that case, okay, let's just try it, why not? Config, Rofi, launcher.sh, we have done that. Now if I press, perfect, there you go. It's executing the right command, which is beautiful because it works. Now, First thing you want to do is pkill Rofi, and if that fails, then you're going to that. Perfect. Now it acts as a toggle. The way this toggle works is actually very, very simple. Look, if Rofi isn't already running, you're going to kill it. If it is running, okay, actually, if Rofi isn't already running, okay, this command is going to fail, which means that whatever's after the two pipes is going to be executed, which means you're going to open the launcher. If the launcher is already open, the command pkill Rofi will succeed, which means that Rofi will die. And that works as a fantastic toggle. So that's that, and that is how you can set up an app launcher in Rofi. Pretty simple. We didn't have to do too much of tinkering this time. All we did was just copy a pre-made theme from this repo, change a couple of colors, and that's pretty much it. Now, Rofi is way, way more powerful than you can imagine because you can make all sorts of custom menus and theme switchers and wallpaper switchers with that, and that is exactly what I teach inside of Hyper Accelerator, which is a program that's the first link in the description. So if that is something that you want to learn how to make yourself, okay, I've only shown you the starting part, how to get started and get a config that works and looks fine, good enough. But if you want to take that to the next level, if you want to take Rofi and your Hyperland setup to the next level, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. And of course, if you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Now we will be customizing the terminal, but before that, let's actually change this wallpaper to a better one that I found online. So let's use swww img transition type. Okay, we'll leave that for later, but for now, we'll just change the wallpaper pictures. It's ALLQK, whatever. By default, the transition for the wallpaper is actually going to be a simple fade. So the image fades from the first one to the next one. However, if you have seen how this program is actually supposed to work, you will have also noticed that there are lots of transition types and options that you can apply to this to make it much prettier. That is something which we'll be dealing with later. Now we're going to customize the terminal. Now, as for the terminal, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to want to change. First is the background opacity, color scheme, and then whilst we're at it, because the window borders are also a part of the terminal, we're going to be changing that as well. I originally made it a plan to keep it separate, but it's fine. Let's just do that now. So we're going to be using the kitty config file for this because, of course, the terminal is kitty. Let's just go for kitty config file. Now, if we look this up, we will find the location. What's going on? Okay, I am not indeed a robot. Yes, I am not a robot. Okay, here it is. So it's located at config kitty.conf, but by default it's not there, but default config is inside of user shared doc. So let's copy that over. Going to want to copy user share doc kitty.conf over to config kitty, like so. Okay, copy that in there. Now you'll be able to access kitty.conf. In here, there's a lot of different stuff and settings that we can configure. But instead of actually going through all of these and then showing you every single setting, which would definitely make for an entire freaking series of its own because Kitty is just that big and, you know, massive of a program, let's not do that. Instead, what I'll be doing is I will be showing you the core options that you can edit in order to make the terminal look as pretty as fast as possible so that you don't have to sift through the entire config file. However, because I've already shown you the location of the default config file, you don't have to worry about, you know, what settings you're possibly missing because you can just copy it over. You can look through this thing. You can look through all of the different settings that you have here, configure them to your own needs, and then end up using that file instead. But in order to keep things sweet, short, and simple, I will be showing you a pre-config that's been created, okay, that I use on my main machine, which means that it's been tried and tested for what? I've been using the same one for around 1 or 2 years now. So yeah, it's been in use for quite a while, which means that it's been battle tested and it works. So let's use that. Now that's going to be inside of, just change users first of all. Su user 0. Okay, now cd and we'll copy .config kitty and kitty.conf. You're going to want to copy that. You know what? Let's just copy the entire directory. cp-r. -r stands for recursive, which means that you're going to get the directory as well as its contents into the place that you're going to copy. So that'll be home, user1, and .config. Here we'll just rm-rf .config kitty, okay, recursively, which means remove directories as well. Remove it forcefully, so even if it's a directory, you're just going to remove it with force in case it fails. Now, let's just copy it this way. Of course, it's going to fail. We'll pass in sudo here. We pass in sudo. What's going to happen is the root user is going to own this folder, and we're going to have to take back ownership, which we do by typing sudo chown user1. This is the user, this is the group. So we chown -r. So again, recursively, everything inside of the folder and the folder itself, config, kitty, and here we're just going to chown the entire thing. So let's do that. Yes. Okay. Now if we exit here, should be able to go to config, kitty, type exa or even ls-la. You'll find that user1 is the, hold on a sec. Okay, well, even if that fails, I can just sudo chown user1 -r kitty. Okay, and now if you ls-la, nobody owns root here, so we'll just go inside of, where's that, kitty ls-la. There you go, we own all the files. Now, let's open kitty.conf. I'll explain everything, and I will also show you what the terminal is going to look like in just a second. So first thing we're including is a colors/colors.conf file. You know what? Yeah, in order to not let you get distracted, I will delete all of this so that we can go through it one by one. Like so. Okay. So first thing is going to be colors/colors.conf. So inside of our kitty folder, for now, let's just show you what's inside kitty, config kitty. Okay, this is what we have. And if I run tree inside of config kitty, which is basically a command that lets you list out a directory in like a tree fashion and a tree format, this is what you're going to see over here. So inside of the colors, we have a colors.conf file, and in there we have custom. And here we have all of the different files related to the colors. Now I have a directory that's in this specific format because I have a custom theme switcher on my main machine, where basically I just have to open a simple Rofi menu like the one that we configured in the previous video. Okay, I just open this menu and I choose a favorite theme of mine, and the entire system switches from the file manager to the browser to the GTK theme to literally the terminal, VS Codium, anything you can think of, it's most likely themed. Yeah, and so that is what these files are pertaining to. And if that's something that you want to learn how to configure on your own, if you've been following along the series and you think that I am a pretty good teacher and you would like to support the channel, as well as get something in return, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. It's a program where I teach you how to do all of this on your own so that you're not just left copying and pasting dot files that end up breaking every 3 days. So if that is something that you want, first link in the description right there, waiting for you to click it. Now, the colors, it's going to include colors.conf, but for our purposes, we don't need to be doing it in such a fancy way. You can just include colors custom, where's that? Yeah, it's graphbox dark.conf. And inside graphbox.conf, what you will find is that it's the same sort of format. Colors custom graphbox dark. It's the same sort of format that we have used inside of the, what file was it? Yeah, Waybar file. So if I show you that in a second, config Waybar inside of style.css, you will find it's not here. Let's just type that to less so you can see all of it. Okay, the colors file was actually located inside elsewhere, so let me show you that. I have to show you this so you understand properly. Wow, colors.css. Okay, yeah, so all of these colors from BG0 to BG4 to red, orange, yellow, green, purple, all of these colors are basically mapped right here. That's it. It's the same thing, just translated into the kitty config file style. That's it. So any colors that are being used, like here, color 2, color 10, they're all green, as is indicated by this comment. And that's pretty much it. That's what this file is doing. We're just importing that as colors. Okay, next thing. Okay, we're going to have to redo that later, but it's fine. Next thing is the font family, of course. We're changing that to JetBrains Mono Nerd Font Mono. Now, as for why there's this extra mono over here, it's because there are different types of nerd fonts, okay? The most practical ones that you're going to be messing around with the most are Nerd Font Mono and Nerd Font Proper. So, as you can probably guess, Nerd Font Mono is the nerd font, the variation of a nerd font that's supposed to be used in monospaced contexts. Now, basically, a monospaced context is a place where you are going to be using monospaced fonts alone. So let's say your terminal is one such case. In VS Codium 2, you have a terminal that's also a monospaced context. Basically, in any sort of terminal environment or in any environment where you're going to be looking at code or any other stuff like that, you can consider to be a monospaced context. Now, in there, if you use this version of the JetBrains Mono Nerd font, all of the icons, because this font comes with icons, are going to be the same size. And when they're the same size, they end up looking much prettier because they end up in a line, okay? And they actually fit inside of the cells of the terminal, for example, okay? Now, however, if you use this same font inside of Waybar, for example, what happens is this thing, what do you call this? The icon ends up sticking too close to any labels that are next to it. And that does not look good one bit at all. In fact, if you have only one space, most of the time what's going to happen is that the icon is going to overlap with the text. And when that happens, well, tough luck, because you're going to have to use spaces in order to space the icon away from each other. And not just that, but then the alignment of the icons is all messed up, and it's a nightmare in order to troubleshoot it and basically look at it all the time. So that is why you're using mono in this context. However, in Waybar, if you remember, we used JetBrains Mono Nerd font proper, because there the spacing is changed correctly so that you don't have to worry about the overlapping icons and all the other stupid crap like that. So that's why we're using mono over here. As for font size, that's pretty simple. I'm not going to be explaining that. Then disable ligatures. Now this I'm actually going to turn off because I like ligatures. I don't know why I had that on for some reason. Enable audio bell. Okay. So inside of terminals, for some reason, okay, whenever you press backspace on an empty prompt, it just gives you a bell. And if you have your volume turned up all the way high and you've just forgotten about it, then hearing that disastrous, disgusting bell, okay, just blasting in your ear is the last thing that you want. So you're going to want to turn this off. Enable audio bell. Yes. No, you're going to want to turn it off, basically. Next thing is shell ZSH. So this is the ZSH shell that we're going to be using, but we're not going to be setting up ZSH in this video because we'll be using a different shell called fish. Fish has syntax highlighting by default along with a bunch of other features, and so you can set it up that way. I will show you how to set up fish. It's very simple. There's not much that you're going to be doing at all, so it's nice. I will show you that. Shell integration. So this is a setting that basically allows you to get this block cursor all the time, so you don't have to deal with a line. Cursor shape, that's going to be block. URL style curly. You can also change it to line. That's what it is by default. Okay. Remember window size. Okay, let's just restore all of this. Then I'll show you. Okay, now we'll just go up and change this to custom of box dot.conf. Okay, anything else? No here. Comment this out. Okay, great. Remember window size. So you don't want to do that because if you turn this to yes, okay, and you give an initial window width and a window height, what happens is when you open the terminal, it spawns with that window and that height, and then Hyperland has to ask it to resize to fit in whichever place that we've actually asked it to tile. You don't want that happening because eventually what's going to happen is if you have a fast computer, okay, not even eventually, okay, when you're launching the terminal, it just starts as a smaller window and then expands. And that does not look good because it's not animated. It looks horrible. And so in order to avoid that, you want to remember window size to no, so that Hyperland dictates the window size, which means that it's going to be just fine. Then padding width, blink interval, yeah, that's 0 because you don't want the cursor blinking. Window padding width, so this is the padding width of the window. 30 is actually a bit too much. We're going to reduce that to something like 20. Now, if I press Ctrl Shift F5, you will notice that it works. Now, let's just change this to 25. We'll meet in the middle. Okay, perfect. Looks amazing. Then cursor blink interval, I've already discussed that. Initial window width and height. These are basically in columns. 78 columns across. That's for width. Height, 23 tall. Then background opacity, 0.8 because we want to be using blur, which we will set up in a different video. Scroll bar, handle opacity track, and all of this scroll bar stuff. It's so that the scroll bar is basically invisible. And it's really useful when you're trying to show off your, wow, okay, I don't even have a fetch tool. Yeah. So it's really useful when you're trying to show off your fetch, because what you can do is you can keep your fetch a little something like this. But whenever you try and show only the fetch, okay, you have to scroll a little bit. And when you do scroll, the ugly scroll bar shows up, and that's not very nice. Instead, what you can do if you have disabled scroll bars is that you can get the fetch looking clean, super clean like this, which is why I've turned it all off. Confirm OS window close. Sometimes if you have an app running inside of Kitty, when you go to close it, it's going to give you a warning, a dialogue, and that sucks. You don't want to be dealing with that every single time you want to close something. Chances are, if you're going to close a window, you're going to be fully aware that you're doing it. If not, please gain some awareness, okay? So, confirm OS window close, that's just set to 0. Next thing is performance settings. Are you going to sync that to monitor? No, this is basically disabling VSync so that the terminal can operate at a much higher refresh rate than what would otherwise be allowed by VSync. Performance. So this one is repaint delay, input delay, and cursor trail. Now these ones you can just copy or you can just leave. I'm going to have to check the wiki in order to tell you what they exactly mean because it's been a while since I've dealt with these particular settings. But input delay, I think you can make out what that is. Okay, if you type in too many characters at once, that just dictates the input delay. Repaint delay, that's most likely in a unit, something like milliseconds, I suppose. Yeah, you're going to have to check out the wiki for this one. As for cursor trail, well, you see this trail that appears whenever I open a new window. It just travels from here to here. That is what cursor trail is. So you can increase or decrease the length of the trail by controlling this number here. That's it. And that would be it for kitty.conf. Now we have the part set up like so on. Let's just also change Hyperland, Hyper modules, decoration. Now in here, we're going to change the active border. Let's not keep it blue. We will actually change that to, wait for it, we'll change it to BG4. Okay, that does not work because we have not yet imported the colors for Hyperland. Interesting. Now we can do that, but it's going to take way too long. So let's go to Fig, Waybar, colors.css. Now BG4 is 665C54. I'm going to have to just type that in. 665C54. There's no need for an alpha value, which basically dictates transparency. Okay, looks pretty good. Fantastic. Inactive border, you want that to be way darker, so we can set that to 282828. 282828. Okay. Let's write that properly. Okay. Write it properly. Now that doesn't work because you're gonna have to get rid of that. Fantastic. There you go. It actually looks super minimal. And yeah, it works beautifully. But let's actually change this to BG2 3C3836. 3C383836. See whether that's any better. And yeah, that actually looks pretty good. So it's fantastic. I'm going to keep it this way. Great. Okay. Next thing we're going to be doing is setting up our shell. So you're going to want to install the fish shell by typing in fish at the terminal. Okay. Extra. This is a fish shell. You can just type in y-s fish. Type this in. Okay, now that what you're going to do is basically change the shell to the fish shell. Now, if I just type in fish, you're inside of the friendly interactive shell. What you want to do is go into basically typing in this command. So let's exit first, chsh-s-s. You can do either which fish or you can just do bin fish because that works. Bin fish, you're going to change the shell for your user. Now the shell is changed, but you can't wait. Now, instead of logging out and logging back in and me having to deal with splicing together two different video tracks and dealing with that BS, I'm just going to go to kitty.conf, and inside here, what I will be doing is just changing shell to fish. Change shell, and fantastic. There you go. That works. Now, let's just type help to see what's going to happen. And here, you'll find the introduction for fish. Now, the first thing that we're going to be doing, okay, is just turning off. Let's see here. Okay, let me show you the features that are there by default. Syntax highlighting. Now that you usually have to get in ZSH by installing a plugin, but by default it's just here. Also, the fish shell is super fast. That's also very nice. There's auto suggestions as well. So if I type something like ffmpeg, you see that. The only thing is, it's a bit hard to see because of the colors, but it's there. There's also tab completion. I was going to type ffmpeg, and yep, it just shows up. No configuration needed. Scripting, that's also special features of fish and whatnot. So yes, now let's see here. I'm going to have to turn off this thing. Okay, there you go. Finally, after some searching around, I was able to figure out the command to launch this particular function over here, which is called, what was it? Fish config. Yeah, fish_config. So when you type this in, you'll be able to find this port. Basically, this should pop up in your web browser, which allows you to change different themes like so. And not just that, but it also allows you to customize the prompt. So this arrow prompt is one that looks pretty sick. If not, you can go with minimalist or even scales. This is one I was using for quite some time now. You can set that to the prompt. If you open, that's what it looks like, and it looks pretty freaking good. Then you have functions, variables. You can customize what that's supposed to do. The history, as you can see, these are all the different commands that I've run before. And yeah, now the only thing we need to figure out is how to get rid of this greeting. And if that's done, we're basically done with configuring our shell, our terminal. We've changed our shell to fish, which already looks pretty freaking sweet. And we just have to get rid of this section here. Now, we should find that in this part. Okay, so a simple command like this one, which if I just show you what that actually does, let's go to, where was that? It was inside config, fish, config.fish. Okay, you just have to set -g fish greeting. This is going to set fish greeting to an empty variable. Okay, just to an empty string, so it's not effectively disabling it and you're not going to see anything. If you wanted to add some more padding, we can do that. Okay, the terminal already looks so good. I love it. Config, fish, config.fish. Okay, not this one. What was it? Oh yeah, it was for our terminal. So config, kitty. And also another really good thing about fish is you can press Control backspace and then it actually works. Because for some reason on bash or ZSH, you have to set Control W. Okay, you have to map Control backspace to Control W, which is actually what's used to get rid of a word. But by fish, it's done by default. So it's just a really, really nice shell to use. For scripting, it has a completely different scripting language, so let's not go there. But for daily use, when it comes to your shell, man, this is one of the best shells, if not the best, that's out there. Let's change, what was that? Adding width, something like 27. Okay, looks sweet. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't even look that bad. We can change it to 30 even, because that's what I was using by default. Okay, no, 30 is way too much. D7, 28. Yep, perfect. 28. Yeah, there you go. That's amazing. And that's pretty much it. That is how you can configure your terminal to look sexy as this one over here. In the next videos, we will be configuring Hyperland to look much better than it already is looking right over here. We're going to configure blur, shadows, and a bunch of other stuff in order to make it go from this bland compositor that you're seeing over here to one with more personality, life, and more you. And also, if you want to learn how to make stuff like custom theme switchers and wallpaper switchers and all sorts of other fancy stuff to take your setup to the next level, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. That's it. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. So, notifications, for that you can use either Sway and See, Mako, or Dunst. Now, depending on the extent of the functionality that you require, okay, whether you need a notification panel along with a couple of toggles as well as an Empress widget, or whether you just need basic notifications, you're either most likely going to choose something like Sway and See or Mako. Now, I will tell you what I use personally on my setup that I have been ricing for about 4 years at this point, and also the one that I recommend to you that has the most features, and that one is going to be Sway and See. So let's get started with ricing that. First thing you want to do is just install Sway and See with yay-s Sway and See. And whilst we're at it, we're also going to be customizing the clipboard. So you're going to want to install cliphist, WL clipboard, WL clip persist. Okay, and let's also get the screenshot tool we're going to set up later on, and that is going to be Hypershot. So once you type that in, I'll just pass in needed because I don't want to reinstall. Okay, now if I just type in the password, okay, it's going to skip everything because everything's already there. Great. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to set up Sway and See. So right now, if I were to show you what Sway and See looks like, let me just start it, ampersand this on. Okay, instance is already running, so let's just kill that, Sway and See. Pkill Sway and See. Okay, it's going to fail because it's open on my other user, so let's just sudo pkill. Okay, and it's dead, as you can see over here. Okay, fine. Now, Sway and See, and the notification daemon should be running. If I run notify send, hello, hello. This is the example notification. Seems like it works plenty well. Now, the only thing is I had already been experimenting with the theme that I was going to show you how to set up. So let's actually get rid of that. Config Sway and See. Let's just rm-rf that. rm-rf, config Sway and See. Okay, now if I rerun that, of course, it's still going to show this. Let's just refresh. Run Sway and See again. Now, if I notify send, okay, this is the default theme that we're going to be seeing. If I wanted to show the panel, that's very simple. Sway and See client-t. That shows the panel. Let's send a couple of notifications like so. Open the panel like this. And as you can see, this is the sender. And these are all the individual notifications that are showing up. Okay. Now, theming sway and see can be done in one of two ways that I've figured out. Okay, you can either write the entire config.json C and style.css file yourself, targeting every single individual CSS selector. But if I showed you how to do that from complete scratch, okay, it would take 5 hours, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to spend 5 hours just customizing your notifications instead of the rest of your setup. So what we will be doing is taking a pre-made one and we'll be customizing it to our needs so that we're not spending literally 5 hours trying to get a freaking notification center working. There is a time and a place when you actually want to spend time understanding how and why things actually work the way that they do, like Waybar, for example. Waybar and all the scripts that you might be running that are interconnecting different parts of your setup, something like a night mode script or a game mode script, stuff like that, okay? There you actually want to understand because you're going to be tweaking and making changes. As for the notification center, if you find a good pre-made setup that you can use without having to break your head too much about it, not only will you thank yourself in the present, you will also thank yourself in the future because of the time that you were able to save. Now, if you're some kind of psychopath who just enjoys writing configs from scratch, especially for Sway and C, okay, I encourage you to do it yourself, but to save time and just to follow along with me, okay, just make sure to do what I'm doing and do as I tell you to. So let's open Brave. I want to open the browser and let's just type in the password because it's been bugging me forever. Okay, there you go. Now that's for clipboard managers. We'll get to that later. As for this thing, Sway and C, you want to go to this GitHub link. So you want to go to github.com. It was Eric Ryder, Sway Notification Center. It's already there, so I'm gonna click that. So once I'm here, as you can see, it's the same GTK-based notification daemon for any Wayland compositor. Fantastic. So I want to scroll all the way down, find this want to show off your sick config section. Click on that, you'll find this config flex discussion on GitHub. I'm gonna click here. And once you do, you will be brought to this discussion where you can see all of the different Sway and C config styles. Now, your task is to scroll through all of these, okay? Scroll through every single one over here, find one that you like. You're not going to be able to see or identify anything from how I'm scrolling over here, but just find that. Once you find one, check whether it has a .files link. And if it doesn't, find another one that you like that actually does have a .files link, because that's what we're going to be using in order to get a preset. Okay, now let's go a little bit up so we can find the one that I was using previously, and I can use that. Okay, this one. This one looks pretty slick and clean. Okay, not too much going on. We can get rid of the Empress widget and even the array of buttons, or maybe we can keep the widget, but we'll decide later. First thing you want to do is just get the thing in the first place. You want to click here, click on this .files link. You will be brought to the person's GitHub page, which has the .files. Now what you want to do is click on code and clone this. So you want to do just type, okay, now I already have that, so it's already cloned. Otherwise, you would just type in git clone and then you paste the link. Make sure to depth 1 because you want to make a shallow clone that gets only the latest commit. Okay, you don't want the entire commit history, so you just want to go depth 1, getting the shallow commit. That should do the trick. Now let's cd hypernova. In here, you will find, you go to .config, cd .config. In here, you'll find Sway and C. So we're going to be copying that cp-r. Sway and C, you want to go to home/.config. Let's copy that in there. Now that should do the trick as for the base thing. But it doesn't quite work that way. Okay, I got pkill Sway and C. Make sure it's dead. Okay, now if we launch and Sway and C, or let's just notify send. Notify send hello. Okay, to an extent it works, but the colors are missing, and so this is why you're seeing such horrendous colors. Let's fix that. Okay, now we'll also have to set up the reloading, so let's take care of that. Let's go to config a Waybar, config Waybar launch.sh, then scripts launch.sh. In here, you want to pkill Waybar, and you also want to pkill Sway and C, and Waybar ampersand and Sway and C ampersand should be good enough. Okay, now if we press this, it should reload Sway and C as well, which is fantastic and prevents us from having to type in the command, the entire command in the terminal. Now, let's go to config Sway and C whilst we are here. Let's just ls. Okay, let's go to config.json, see if there's anything we need to edit. Seems like there is not. If anything, the only thing we need to edit is going to be the elements that we're seeing. So most likely I would get rid of something like, probably the label Empress widget or something like that, but we can deal with that later, maybe even the buttons grid. For now, let's just make sure that the colors work. So inside style.css, we don't want this. Instead, we will be having a colors.css file. Okay, I can just leave the rest to be as it is. Okay, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Kind of vibes. Now, we need to get that colors.css. So in the previous videos, what I've done is I've basically made a file inside of config Waybar colors.css, which contains all Grovebox colors. If I showed you, these are all Grovebox colored colors just mapped to CSS colors, the defined color that you're seeing here. So that is what we're going to be using inside of the Sway and C as well. So let's do that. Style.css. Okay, we have to actually go into themes here, Nova Dark, Central Control. I want to change all of the colors that you're seeing here. So text is going to be FG, background alt. Let's just make that to BG1. Selected is green to go with the rest of the aesthetic. Oh, we actually need to change the accent color for this one, but we can do that later. You know what? Yeah, we'll do it later. Hover. Yeah, let's just make that green, urgent, red. And let's go through here. There should be background alt, that's fine. At define color background. This is something I noticed when I was experimenting with stuff before. Yeah, just need to make sure background is at BG0. Also, there's one color called background sec for some reason. Just want to get rid of that color. Let's change background sec to BG, or just change that to background. And now, if we reload, we should be able to see. Okay, let's also map config hyper modules binds.conf. So I want to go here and map notification center, or just call it action center. Okay, I want to bind $main mod a exec. What are you going to execute? Well, you're going to execute sway and c client -t. Okay, once you do that, you should be able to execute, and voila, it looks fantastic and it works perfectly. Okay, amazing. All of the colors are working. That's quite a relief. Next thing we have to edit colors for is going to be the actual notifications. So in notifications.css, we're going to have to do some trickery. So text is going to be FG, background alt, make that BG1. Is going to be green, hover, well, make that alpha, at green something. Oh no, you don't want that color 5. Well, let's see. Yeah, you can just change it to something like BG2. Urgent, you want that to be red. Now let's see whether there's anything. Okay, background. Need to add define colored background, and in here just type BG0. Reload. Now if I send a notification, if I send hello. Okay, all of the colors work perfectly, and we have gotten the colors working just fine. Now, if there's any sort of notification sent, we can just go to notification tester. Should find the website, test web push notifications. Okay, let's just test it here. Now, let's see here. I'll just continue without consent. Greetings, show. Now, push service error. Of course, it doesn't work here. There was another website that allowed you to test. Okay, it was this one. Now, authorize, allow, show. And as you can see, this is what it looks like. Pretty cool. That's nice. Now, there's one thing we can do, which is enable blur for Sway and C. Let's do that really quickly. So it'll be inside config, hyper, modules. There's no window rules.conf, but maybe there is there. Oh, nice. Anyway, let's make a new window rule. So this one is going to be window rule equals match namespace. Pretty sure the namespace is Sway and C. I don't remember the syntax, so I'm going to have to check that out. Wiki.hyper.land. Let's see the syntax for the window rule. So let's go to window rule, window rules, and here match class. Okay, got it. So I want to match namespace Sway and C. Pretty sure that's the namespace anyway. Okay, now here you want to turn blur on. Window rule, that doesn't work for some reason. What's going on here? Invalid field type. Interesting. Interesting. So let's see. There should be one for blur. Blur. Okay, no blur. Okay, no blur off. Okay, there it is. So this is a layer rule. Okay. Okay, that's a layer rule instead of a window rule. Layer rule. Okay, so and see blur on, and what do you see? Is blur actually on? Not quite. So we're just gonna have to check out the namespace. Sleep2 hyperctl clients and pass that to less. Okay, now, oh, I'm pretty sure it doesn't even show up on layers. That's interesting. Okay. Does it actually show up? No, it does not. I was right. Okay, well, then what else can we use? You're only matching. Okay, hyperctl layers. That was the right command. So when I run the same thing, instead of clients, you want to run layers. Come on. Okay, we find one of them. Sway control center. That's what the namespace is called. So let's change that. Sway control center when you turn blur on. Okay. Ah, of course, but it blurs the entire thing. Okay, ignore alpha. Okay, we also need to add that. So how are you going to do that? Just clone this, ignore alpha, ignore alpha, ignore underscore alpha. So it's going to be like this, ignore alpha. What was that? It's going to be an integer. Let's just make that 0.5. Ah, there you go. Fantastic. This works. There you go. You finally figured out how to make blur work. So it's beautiful, as you can see here. Now, you can most likely be able to do it for notifications as well. Now let's notify send. Hello, hello. And here we need to figure out another layer command. So let's see this. I want to execute command. We just got it. Sway notification window. Damn. My ninja skills were way too good, so that's amazing. It's called sway notification window, I believe. Notification window. Oh, you need to do that for both. So let's do that. Clone this, put that there. Oh, come on. Sway notification window. The same thing here. Notification window. Write that now. I send notification. Let's put this here. Okay, it's blurring. Fantastic. Figured that out. Great. So that is notifications being all set up. If you want, you can create a new module in your Waybar, put that here, or even you can make on-click for this thing, for on-click the battery to show up the notification panel. This is just a little something that you can set up. And if you wanted to make it seem a little bit interactive, then what you could do is just, well, change the hover color when you hover on top of the battery, or even the background of it, so that you can identify that it's actually interactable and not just a static thing. That's something you can do. And with that, we have figured out notifications. So that's lovely. However, okay, does everything work? Everything works, that's fine. Let's change the font family here. Let's change that to Rubik without a doubt. Let's put JetBrains Mono Nerd font proper as the font. Roll back. Reload. Does it work? It doesn't. Well, let's see. Oh, that's for the notifications. Of course, it's not going to work here. I want to change that to central control. Okay, here you apply the same font family strategy. So Rubik, comma, hold on, like this. Means mono nerd font proper. Don't include the 10. Reload. There you go. Perfect. Yes. Absolutely lovely. Now, this one, I'm not going to be keeping that because there's just no point. I prefer something more minimal anyway, so let's go to config.json. I want to get rid of this buttons grid because I'm legit never using it. Okay, now I reload. Buttons grid is missing, but it seems like... interesting. Oh, right. Something seems to be missing and messed up. Hold on. Okay, let's get rid of that. And here, this much. Seems like that should work. Shouldn't fail. Ah, there you go. But now there's this empty space, and I do not like empty space. Let's get rid of this. Hold on a sec. So you want to get rid of that. Reload. Why does it say label text over there? For the love of God. Why did... Oh, well. Tough luck. Oh, there. Just change this to Overwatch or Action Center. Notification Center. Works. It's plenty descriptive, if not creative, so it's fine. Well, you definitely know that it's a notification center now, so there's no running away from that. What if I change max lines to 0? Is that gonna get rid of it? Sadly, no. Okay, well, tough luck. I can just let it be like this, or I can do something else with it. What happens if I get rid of it? Didn't I already try this? I did. Got to. Oh, wait. Yeah, we can just get rid of it here. Wow, why didn't I think of that? There you go. That's what I've been looking for all along. I didn't have to massacre all the others. Already told us change. Yeah, just get rid of these two. Should be good. Good. Perfect. We need the title. Yes, we do. Otherwise, it's missing. Okay, let's go. Great. Now, what next? We've got the notifications all set up. Next thing we're going to set up is going to be, what was that? Clipboard, yeah. So for Clipboard, once you go to the Hyperland wiki, wiki.hyper.land. Oh, and by the way, if you've set up your computer this far and you're enjoying the series and you want more access to more content, to stuff like custom theme switchers and wallpaper switchers and Waybar layout switchers, as well as so many other switchers and menus, and learning how to make all of that stuff, just like I'm teaching you over here, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. It's a program that covers how to do all of this completely from scratch so that you don't have to jump from one tutorial to the other, just trying to find out how to do that one particular thing that you've always seen that looks super cool, but then you just can't figure it out for the life of you. So if that is something that you want, you can click the first link in the description right now and check it out. Okay, now we need Clipboard. So let's go look that up. Clipboard. Once we're here, we're going to be using Clipist now. Okay, so last time I tried recording this, my OBS just randomly decided to give up on me. And so after troubleshooting for literally, how long was that? Freaking 40 minutes? 40 minutes. I tried recording the video twice. Anyway, after all that, I was also able to figure out why Clipist wasn't working properly. And the reason is because you actually need to get these commands to be put inside of your hyperland.conf file. In our case, it's going to be the auto start. So config hyper modules autostart.conf. You want to go here. I've already put them. Basically, what you want to do is just put in WL paste, type text, and type image. You want to watch Clipist store. If you don't put in this command, what's going to happen is new stuff that you copy is not going to be added to your clipboard, which means that there is no feature, there's no point to the clipboard function at all. So make sure to put this in, log out and log back in. Otherwise, what you can do is you can just type in the same command and then use the ampersand disown trick. And I'm going to have to re-explain to you the ampersand disown trick because that was in the previous video. So let me just do that really quickly. Anyway, let's just copy and paste this stuff. I'll do it for text. You can do it for both text and image. So you want to type ampersand disown. Now what this does is basically detaches this process from the terminal. So even if I close the terminal, the app is still going to be running in the background. And the app only truly dies when I log out of Hyperland entirely and I go into the TTY, or I just exit the TTY. And that's fantastic. So I'm going to do that. I also want to change type to image. I'm going to do that here as well. Okay, done. Now, what else is it that needs to be done? Okay, so WL clip persist. Do you remember when we installed that previously? Well, the thing is, whenever you copy something from an app, let's say I copy this much code, okay? I copy it, I paste it here, everything works. But when I close the app, well, tough luck, because it's actually not supposed to let you paste it. But the only reason pasting it like this is working is because I put in the WL clip persist command. And that is what you want to do as well if you want the ability to paste stuff even once you close the app. It's a neat little feature that you actually would love to have if it is not already set up, and something that really bugs you, most likely, if you're paying attention, if it's not already set up. So just do this. WL clip persist, clipboard regular, and your clipboard will persist. And your future self, as well as your current self who's using the clipboard, will thank you. Okay, so we've set up clipboard that way. Now we need to actually set up the menu that we're going to be using to access it. Now, a couple of ways to do that. Let's go to hyper modules binds.conf. Now here we're going to bind that using clipboard. A command is given to us for Rofi, so we just want to copy and paste this command here. And what this command does is it basically lists all the items in your clipboard, this part, pipes that to Rofi using D-menu mode. And here you're going to basically clipist decode and WL copy. So this part you can basically abstract it to copy it to the clipboard so that it's accessible. Okay, you're going to decode whatever stuff is over here. Then you're going to copy it to the clipboard. Now, in our case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing the prompt to -p clipboard, as well as theme inside of home user1 config Rofi launchers, or was it ls config Rofi, it was style1 config Rofi style1.rossi. But now if I press super shift V, because super V is already floating mode, change this to main mod, shift, not shit. Funny. Yeah, so shift V. Okay, this shows up. Fantastic. Yes, as you can see, I was going a little bit crazy over here, just trying to get my damn video to work. But anyway, yes, now this is the clipboard. If I wanted to search for something, WL paste, matches stuff. If I wanted to copy something, copy. If I check clipboard, ta-da, it's over there. Also do this for Clipman, copy, ta-da, it's over there. And also, this thing is bugging me, so I'm gonna change the colors really quickly. Config, Rofi, colors, graph box. Oh, this is not it. Hold on a sec. Selected. Yeah, that's what we want to change. You want to change that too. Big, Waybar, colors. Please show me green. 989718. So 98989718. Now, yay, there we go. There's the green. Now the green would actually look way better if we switched to a theme like Everforest or Dropbox Material, but I'm going to put up with it because I like it. Okay. So this is written. We have done with, what was it again? What did we just do? Yes, we did notifications like so. And we also did, what was that called? What was that called? Man, my memory is giving up on me. Yes, clipboard, there it is. Okay, we did clipboard as well. Last thing we're going to do is set up screenshots. Screenshots. So for screenshots, we installed Hypershot, which is a beautiful, lovely little utility that lets us configure screenshots really quickly. So a couple of ways you can use it. Hypershot-m output, you get this plus icon. Choose the monitor you want to take a screenshot on. It sends you a notification and the screenshot is selected. If you want to do it only for one particular monitor, pass -m again, pass in the monitor. In my case, this is DP1. So if I do that, automatically takes a screenshot. I don't get the plus icon to choose my monitor. If I wanted to take it of a window, change that to window. This is what it looks like. I can take it that, gets a notification. Then I can also do region if I wanted to, take screenshot of a particular region. And of course, this is also copied to clipboard. So if I wanted to go to some place like Chat GPT, let's go to GPIT. So now that we're in GPIT, I can paste. And there you go. My image is pasted into GPIT. Pretty nice. What else is it? Nah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Those are the main ways that we're going to be using the notifications. Now, if I were to type in a command, $ main mod, this is my case, it's going to be F12 exec hypershot -m output -m dp1. Copy the same thing. You want to put in shift because this one's going to be for region. Now, and pick region, cancel this one. If I just press F12, it'll take another screenshot. There you go. And that's it. You've set up screenshots, clipboards, as well as action centers to make Hyperland that much more usable. That's pretty much it. If you want to learn how to make stuff like custom theme switchers, wallpaper switchers, and all sorts of other fancy stuff that I have not yet shown you how to do so in this series, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. It's a program that has over 10 hours of content that teaches you exactly how to do this sort of stuff from scratch so that you're not left copying anybody else's dot file, so that you're not ripping off Omarchi or even using that because you don't know how to configure your own thing. You can make something that's better than everybody else's combined. So if that is something that you want to do, if you're a person who values autonomy and independence instead of just copying and pasting other stuff, you can click first link in description, check out Hyper Accelerator. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Theming, which you have been waiting for most likely for all this time. So let's do it. Now, to a certain extent, we have themed our terminal. Okay, so this is what our terminal currently looks like. Let's just run neofetch. Okay, this is what our terminal looks like, and even the decorations we have done to a certain extent when it comes to Hyperland. Okay, now let's fix the obvious eyesores, like for example, our GTK theme. So we'll fix that. Okay, no, this is different. This is not it. I was looking at NWG. Look. Okay, so going to fix our GTK theme, icon theme, mouse cursor, font, and other stuff over here. I'll teach you what they all do, and we will make this look much prettier than it already is. Okay, so as for the GTK theme, I've made a video where I discuss how you can actually make your own GTK theme. But for the purposes of this video, what I'm going to be doing is not making our own GTK theme that's Dropbox themed. You can do that if you want to by following that tutorial. Instead, what we'll do is we'll grab a Dropbox GTK theme that's already been made. And I'm pretty sure there is one made by this guy called Fausto Corpsvart. So the guy's name is github.com/Fausto Corpsvart. I'm pretty sure. Maybe, okay, there you go. Now there is a Dropbox GTK theme, so you want to click on this link. just find this guy's GTK theme, okay? Find the repo over here. Now you can either download it right from the releases. Okay, okay, great. There are no releases, so that's fine. You can either clone this and then make it yourself. Otherwise, okay, what you can do is just go over to Pling and get the GTK theme, and I will show you how to install it from there. Okay, now here we are. Once you're here, you want to click on Files and download the one that you prefer. The one that I prefer personally is going to be dark hard borderless macOS button. So that's going to be Dropbox BLMB, right? Yeah, this one. Dark hard borderless macOS buttons. If you prefer the lighter, softer variants of the theme, you can choose that as well. But I'm going to be going with dark hard because I really like dark setups. So let's pick this. Dark hard borderless. You want to click on this. Okay, once that's done, you'll just have to click on this download button, and then save this is a tar file, so you want to save the tar archive to your downloads or wherever else. Let's put that inside of the downloads. Okay, now that it's there, you want to use your favorite program to extract stuff and then get that out there. So in my case, I will be using File Roller. If you haven't already installed File Roller, it's simple. You just look for File Roller. You will find it inside of the repositories with the same name. Okay, so you can install File Roller. That gives you access to this GTK4 app where you can do stuff with archives. Now, let's open this. Hold on. Yeah, let's go inside Downloads, and here you see the tar archive. You want to right click, open with File Roller, and what you want to do is extract this to somewhere. Okay, I want to extract this to a certain place. That certain place is going to be inside .themes. Okay, so you want to mkdir.themes, and remember, if you're going to be making a theme directory that's inside .themes, then this basically means that any GTK themes that you put inside of .themes, whether they be GTK3 or 4 themes, okay, they are only going to show up for the particular user that you have made this directory inside of. So in my case, I've made it inside of user 1, and so whatever GTK themes that I put inside of user 1, only user 1 is going to be able to access, and no other apps can do so. Even if it's a root user, well, the root user can access everything, but accessing is different from actually using the theme to theme the applications. So yes, not all other users will be able to access this particular theme if installed for locally, like inside .theme. So just keep that in mind, okay? So you've done that there. You just want to extract this, and you want to put it inside of .themes. Okay, so you want to extract it inside of there. Extraction completed. And it's put that here, fine. If it's not done that properly, we can just deal with that later. Let's go to .themes. Of course, the folder is empty. Well, that doesn't really matter. Let's just go to downloads. You want to get these three, cut, press Ctrl H to show hidden files and folders. Now you just want to, hold on, yeah, let's go inside of .themes, put that here, and you want to close and reopen NWG look. So let's open NWG look this way. Now you see the Dropbox GTK theme showing over here. I want to select this. Now that makes things look much better. But you will notice that the accent color is actually blue. If you wanted to change the accent color, you're going to have to go inside of the theme files, go inside GTK3, gtk.css, and gtk.css. Find the places. Okay, we're not going to be using this to edit stuff because that's hell. Instead, we'll be using NeoVim. So I'll open the terminal. Let's go for a custom command. Should be somewhere here. Okay, well, yeah, NeoVim. Always use. If it doesn't open, well, tough luck, because we're going to have to set that later. Okay, it doesn't open. What a surprise. Okay, now, let's see, Kitty. Is that here? Okay, VS Code, this works. We can just open this through VS Code. Okay, now that this is here, you will find that you're using these colors somewhere here. You will find the hex code. Just go to the Dropbox link, okay, the Dropbox theme GitHub page, find blue color over there, okay, and find all the instances of blue here and replace them accordingly. There are quite a lot here, so you can use AI to help you with this. Otherwise, if you're okay with there being an accent color mismatch for now, okay, and you don't want to deal with it right now, you can just leave that be because it's fine. It doesn't really bother anyone that much, so I'm going to leave it this way for now. Okay, so we'll change color scheme to prefer dark as well. Once you do that, you can hit apply, and there you go. Any themes, any apps that were previously not in dark theme now should be in dark theme because you have specified it as such. Let's say that you wanted to change the font as well, because Advaita Sans is good and all, but then there is a better font. In my opinion, that font is most likely going to be something like Google Sans Flex, or Rubik. Now, because we're already using Rubik inside of the bar, let's just use Rubik over here as well. Rubik 11 looks pretty sexy. If you wanted to increase the font size just a little bit, you can do that, but I'm going to keep it at 11 so that you can see Perfect. Let's hit apply, and changes should take place if you just close and reopen. Okay, there you go. Changes have indeed taken place, and that's fantastic. Great. So this is for the widget section over here. We've done all that sort of stuff. That's great. Next thing is going to be the icon theme. Now, right now, the icon theme we're using is one known as Adwaita. This is the same thing that's used in GNOME by default, okay? Now, if you like this and for whatever reason you want to keep it, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can install one known as Papyrus Dark. Right now, I have set Papyrus Dark to be a gray color. And now this is a global setting. I will show you how to change in just a second. But this is what the Papyrus color scheme, as in icon theme, looks like. If you wanted to find more icon themes, you can go over to this place. It's called pling.com. You can either go to pling or gnomelook.org. Just go to gnomelook.org. And once you are here, you should be able to find icon themes. So full icon themes. Just click on that on the left side in the sidebar, and you should find a bunch of different icons that you can use. Now, if you're going to take one of these, just let's say Big Sur icon theme, just click on this one. And what you want to do is just get the icons. So Big Sur Black or Big Sur, get this, extract it, and put it inside of .icons. Just like how we extracted this thing. Okay, just like how we extracted this tar.exe file and then put the contents inside of .themes. We want to do the same thing, but for this thing, but for .icons. So make a folder .icons, put your icons there, and also just keep in mind that the same thing that applies to the users thing, that basically you're making a local folder that's only going to appear in nwglook for this particular user. Same thing applies here as well, so keep that in mind. Now, as for installing Papyrus Dark, you can do that by typing in yay-s Papyrus icon theme, and if you want to change the color of the folders, install Papyrus folders as well. So when you install it this way, okay, when you install it this way, I'm going to say no because I already have them. Okay, when you install these two things, you should get access to the icon theme itself, which if it doesn't show up immediately, which it won't, just close and reopen the app so that you get access to this icon theme inside of this section here, okay? Then, apart from that, if you want to change the color of the folders, you just have to type Papyrus folders -C, so that you're changing the colors for globally, I believe, for all of the icons, the folder icons you're seeing here. You can change them to a bunch of different colors. Like if you asked it for a preview, I'm pretty sure it would show you. Okay, create -C. So this is for color, default, restore. By default, it's blue. If you wanted to see available colors, you can do that with -O. Hold on a sec. That's okay. It should be -L actually. -L, and you see all of the different colors. Right now, I have chosen gray. If you wanted to pick something that was more Grapbox-like, there's a couple things you can do. You can either use Papyrus icon theme with a black one or a gray one, so that it's kind of theme agnostic. Okay, if I just show you here, it doesn't really matter. Hold on, I don't think it's been selected properly. Let's just hit apply here, and if we open, okay, there you go. Yeah, as you can see, it kind of looks agnostic. The colors look theme agnostic, which basically means that it doesn't depend on the theme. Even if you pick something that was more green or blue or even red, okay, these gray icons, they just blend in, and so that doesn't really matter. You can keep it that way. Or you can just go on to this thing, gnomelook.org, and then you can look up the icons for Grapbox icons. So you can just look Grapbox icons, and you should be able to find one like this one. Grapbox icon theme, if it shows up properly in search. If you don't find it on GnomeLook, go on Pling and then search for the same thing, or you can just look up Grapbox icon theme Linux. So when you look it up this way, you will be able to find Grapbox Plus, so on and so forth. There's quite a lot that you can pick from. Pick those and you'll be good. Now, I will be using Papyrus folders because that's what I've used for basically forever, and it looks pretty good. Okay, then for the mouse cursor, I have installed the macOS cursors because I like how they look. Compared to Adwaita's cursors, macOS cursors just look freaking insane. They look really good. So that's what I'm personally using. If you want, you can use the same. I have installed it using yay-s apple_cursor. I'm pretty sure, yep, I already have that. Oh, wait, hold on a second. What? That's yay-q. I'll tell you the package name. grep cursor. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was Apple cursor. Okay. Yeah. Adwaita cursors, that's basically this cursor by default. Apple cursor, that looks something like this. Okay, that's the macOS cursor and macOS white that you're seeing here. So if I use that, now you're gonna have to log out and log back in to see changes. Otherwise, until then, you can use hyperctl to set the cursor as well. Hyperctl set cursor 24 macOS, size not integer. Interesting. Set cursor macOS 24, right? macOS 24. Okay, that works. And now you should see the cursor change immediately. And immediately, the tail of the cursor looks 10 times better simply because it's been designed better. And yeah, you also have other functions, other cursors that you can see here, like this pointer one. Pointer one also looks pretty good, so do everything else. If you want that, you can pick macOS. You can just install it by the package I showed you here. If you want a Grapbox theme cursor, a good one that I found is called Simple Cursors. So yay-ss simp1e, simp1e cursor, and you should be able to find Grapbox in pretty much every, okay, here it won't show. Cursor one, simp1e, should find, yeah, X cursor simple, simp1e as I like to call it. Grapbox, you should be able to find here. If you just run a grep Grapbox, you can do that and you will be able to find simple Grapbox start. If you wanted to see what that looks like, you can go to simp1e cursors Grapbox and you should find your simple cursors GNOME look. Now in this section, you should find it inside of the files. You see all of this and you also see a bunch of the previews. So simple dark, this is just simple dark. Then for Grapbox, you should be able to find it in a separate section. Grapbox, yeah, this is what the Grapbox cursors look like. Okay, you know what? Just for kicks and giggles, okay, I will use these Grapbox cursors in order to fully make this setup Grapbox themed. Most likely I should have done it for the icons as well, but nah. I like the icons this way, so I'm gonna keep it that way. Okay, so for the cursors, let's do this. Now, there is something you can do. Okay, you can just install it using the AOR package, but I genuinely do not recommend that you do that because it's such a huge freaking waste of resources. I cannot even begin to explain to you, okay? What it does is it clones the entire thing, makes all of the cursors, deletes the rest, and only gives you the cursor that you asked for. I mean, if you're going to make the entire cursor for like, how many are there? Quite a lot, okay? If you're going to do that and waste, not waste, but use your system resources in order to get that done, you might as well keep the cursors instead of getting rid of them. So instead of doing it that way, just move it to .icons as well. The same principle that I had mentioned earlier. So we'll find Grapbox here. Okay, simple Grapbox doc. So let's click on this, same tar archive. We'll download this. Okay, once it's there, you want to extract and put it inside of .icons. Cursors are also considered icons technically, so if you put them inside of the .icons folder, it should work just fine. So we'll put that there. Now let's open the file manager. We'll go to downloads. You want to extract this. Extract. Should give you the folder. Inside of there, you have this. So now you can just cut this and go back. Control H, find .icons. It should be somewhere here. It's not here, so let's just create that. You want to make a folder .icons. Once you do, you just paste simple Dropbox doc inside of there. And now you go to NWG look. You should be able to, not this thing. You should be able to find icon theme, not icon, mouse cursor, simple Dropbox doc. Select this and you should be able to find that your cursor's set properly. Now, when you set it using NWG look, sometimes what happens is the changes don't reflect immediately, in which case you just have to set it using hyperctl. So use hyperctl, set cursor, simp1e Grapbox dark 24. Set that and immediately the cursor changes and it looks pretty sweet. Okay, that's it. Now, if the cursors don't seem to be setting as soon as you log out and log back in, you can add this as an auto start. So go to config hyper modules autostart.conf. In this section, just add one for cursor and you can type in exec once, hyperctl set cursor. You do that and you should be pretty good. That's it. Do that and you're done. Okay, fantastic. Now, is there anything else? That's pretty much it. Let's just hit apply here for fun. And now, yeah, okay, that works. The cursor is done. The GTK theme is also done. Now, if we open Brave, you should see that, okay, right now, Brave is not using the classic GTK theme because it's using the, there you go, it's using the classic theme. So you want to use GTK, and that's how the appearance of the browser changes. Now, this browser, I'm pretty sure you already know how to customize. It's basically just turning everything off and making the browser look as minimal as possible. I'm not going to go through that here because you might be using a different browser. So that's fine. Let's let that be. Okay, then what's the next thing that we want to cover? So we've done decorations. Now it's time for Hyperland stuff. In Hyperland stuff, the thing that we're going to be dealing with next is most likely going to be animations, decorations. So that means like shadows and blur. And that's pretty much it. We can say that we're done because we have an app launcher. Oh yeah, we also have to theme wlogout as well. Wlogout theming, that can also be done. Okay, yeah, fine. I'll show you how to theme it in a quick way so that you're not wasting time over there. Now we're going to go to the Hyperland wiki to see and for me to show you all of the options that you can use to configure the stuff that you can see. So let's go to config hyper and let's go to modules. In this case, you will see that there's a lot of stuff here. Now I want to go to animations.conf because I want to teach you what these Bezier curves mean and what exactly you're supposed to do with each of them. So right now for the animations, we're using these Bezier curves, and just to abstract stuff and make it easier to understand, you can think of a Bezier curve as this thing, as a set of instructions, basically like a set of numbers, okay, like x0, y0, x1, y1. You can just think of them as numbers that dictate how an animation is supposed to look. So these are the default curves that you're seeing inside of the animation section. So let's actually go there. Animations, you'll find that these are the options for animations. These are the examples, and these are all the different things inside of Hyperland that you can actually apply animations to. So you have windows, layers, and workspaces, along with special workspaces and whatnot. That's a sub option when it comes to workspaces itself. Okay, so let me explain this section over here for animations, and we'll move on to decorations, okay? Let's see here. Now, here, this is the animation syntax. This is the name of the animation if you wanted to set it to anything. On, off, this is either 0 or 1. Speed is going to be in deciseconds, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's deci versus deca. 10 to the minus 2 or 10 to the 2. Okay. Okay, 10 to the minus 1, actually. Okay, 10 to the 1. So here it says 1 decasecond is 100 milliseconds. Interesting. Let's see. 1 ds to ms. Okay, so 1 millisecond. No. Okay, it doesn't even go that far back. Forget it. Okay, anyway, what you're seeing here is ds, and d either stands for deca or deci over here. I need to check to make sure, but just keep in mind 1 ds is 100 milliseconds. How long the animation will take. The speed is, yeah, that's basically the speed. The curve is the Bezier curve name, so that's what you're seeing over here. How actually the animation is supposed to look. If you wanted to see what different animations can look like, as in the Bezier curves, you can just go on CSS portal or even easings.net in order to see how different animations look. This is ease in sign. This is ease in out sign. Ease in out cubic. So this is how it looks. Okay. Depending on the animation you want, you can pick any one of these. It'll show you the coordinates inside of this cubic Bezier function. You copy that, and then you put that inside of this section over here. Okay. Great. Now that's that. Okay. And then there's also a style. So depending on whether you are customizing your windows, your layers, your fading, or your workspaces and stuff, you have different styles that you can choose for animations, okay? And those styles are as follows. For Windows, you have slide, pop-in, or gnomed. Now, Windows, slide, pop-in, and gnomed, right? Let's take a look at the different styles here. Where's that? Windows. Yeah, style. Let's say I made it gnomed. And now if I open a window, it opens, I'm pretty sure from the center, right? Yeah, that's what it does. It opens from the center. Now, if I wanted to, oh no, this is actually overriding it. So let's get rid of that. And now, okay, there you go. Now the actual gnomed look is actually being seen. For Windows, that's what gnomed looks like, okay? Then after that, you have another style, which is going to be pop in. If you add pop in as the style, this is what it looks like. Okay, the window pops in. Depending on how much you want it to pop in, you can control it by specifying a percentage after. If you wanted to, let's say, get the window to slide, you can do that as well. I'm pretty sure that should slide the window, or should it? What's that? Okay, you want to do that. Now. Okay, interesting. What does it say here? Slide, pop in, and gnomed. Okay. Let's put slide here as well. Slide. And let's also make this slide. Now. Okay, there you go. This is what the sliding windows look like. This actually looks pretty sweet, so I'm going to keep it this way. Sliding windows look pretty good, so I'll keep it like this. Then let's see what else we have. For layers, remember when I said that Rofi is a layer? You can either have the layer slide, pop in, or fade. For layers, I will do something different. First of all, let's go here. You want to increase the space. Fade in, fade, 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 fade. Layers in, layers out. Okay, fade. And this should be enough segregation. Now for layers, currently you're fading, but you don't want to fade. You want to actually, let's try slide, but that's going to be too much, I believe. Slide. Now, yeah, it slides and it's good enough. You know, there's something that we can do here, okay? Because it's sliding from the bottom side, we can just make it so that it slides, but then instead of showing up at the center, you can just make it show up over here. So it kind of feels like a drawer that you're opening and then searching for applications for. It's pretty nice. If you wanted to, you can do that. But I will show you how to do it with pop-in, because that it also looks nice and I don't have to edit the Rofi config. So pop-in, pop-in, and pop-in now. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Now you can also specify a percentage if I'm not wrong. The 80, 90%, that should work. 90%. Hold on. Yeah, that's it. Pop in 90% looks pretty sweet and very good. Then this is for layer. So this is for a layer open or close. Now the same thing is going to happen for wlogout as well. And if you want to change it per, thing, you're going to have to go inside your window rules, and in here you have to add something else. So just like we enabled blur for sway and see, you're going to have to do the same thing for layer rule match namespace. That's going to be wlogout. You want to animation fade. Is that now? Okay, no, that is not quite it. Okay, let's take a look at window rules so I can explain it to you. Window rules. This section here, you should find layer rules is what we need. Inside of layer rules, let's see here. No anim. Okay, that's not what we want. Animation style. So yeah, animation fade, that should work, but I'm pretty sure the namespace is not right. So let's see that. Hyperctl layers, you want to do this after sleeping for 1 second, so I can actually capture, run, there you go. Okay, so it's called logout dialog. Okay, that's why it doesn't work. Logout dialog. Now there you go, it fades without popping in, which is fantastic. Okay, so we've done this much. Is there anything else? Let's see. Okay. Fade in. This is for controlling the. Most likely, you're not going to be controlling what do you call it, styles over here for fade, because you literally can't do that anymore. What you're going to be doing instead is controlling the Bezier curve. Now, I've already shown you how you can take the Bezier curves and use them on your own here, so I will not be changing any Bezier curves right now. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, as for workspaces, almost linear. That's okay. I'll show you this last one, which is basically the styles. So you have slide for workspaces. Yeah, hold on. Let me get rid of that. Okay, now, yeah, this is how the sliding for workspaces works. If you wanted to slide vertically, then slide vert, and it doesn't change anything because of why would it, right? Let's delete this, put this here. Okay, let's just do that. And let's get rid of that comma. And there you go, it slides vertically. That's very nice. Only thing is, the Waybar is designed for horizontal movement, so it covers that, but I'll let you figure that out. Then your fade and your slide fade. I haven't shown you slide fade, so I'll show you that. Slide fade, it looks like this. You slide to the left whilst fading out the current workspace. Then you have slide fade vert, which is the same thing but vertically. Now I'm going to go back to what it was before, because that looked pretty sweet. It was fade, actually, apparently. So fading on workspaces, yeah, that works pretty nice. And that's pretty much it. For special workspace, you can choose the Bezier curve and the style if you wanted to. This is what the special workspace looks like. I have OBS right there. This is the zoom factor, so this is for zoom. I've made a video on that. Monitor added, so on and so forth. Okay. Then let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it for animations. As for decorations, there's not much there as well. And with that, we're almost getting to the end of theming. So fantastic. Gaps in and gaps out, we've already mentioned. Setting it right so that the gaps in between windows and outside windows is the same. Okay, then border size is 1 because we're going for that aesthetic where it looks like a card and not like an actual highlight. If you go with a thinner border size, it helps with that aesthetic. Otherwise, well, no, you can choose whichever size you want. For the active border, we're going with something like BG3, I think this color was. Inactive border is something way darker. Resize on border, we've dealt with this before. On allow tearing, that's fine, all that's fine. Decoration, so this is the rounding, okay. The color of the shadow, we've made that 282828. Yeah, I mean, we've already done most of it. Blur, we've enabled blur as well. Change the size of the blur and the passes as well. But this one I didn't show you. This one I did specifically for the thumbnail, but I had not undid. So basically, controlling the size of the blur, what you're doing is controlling the size of the blur kernel. You don't have to worry about yourself with jargon. Basically, how thick the blur is. If I change it to 2, blur's not very thick. You can see. If I wanted to make it something like acrylic looking, I can increase it to 20. Yeah, feels very acrylic. If I change it to 15, that's what it looks like. This is the number of passes. So if you have only one pass, what's going to happen is the surface is only going to be blurred once. This is going to blur it twice. This is going to blur the same window again and again and again until basically it just turns solid. And in that case, well, you decide whether you want a completely solid window or whether you actually want some personality, well, if your wallpaper has any, to shine through. For me, 3 passes seems to be a good amount. There are other settings like, let's go to decorations somewhere here. Maybe it's in variables. Okay, so it's in the variables section. You want to scroll down. And when it comes to blur, yeah, here, you have lots of different stuff that you can configure, like vibrancy darkness, and pop-ups, ignore alpha, all this sort of stuff. And I've covered it separately inside of another video, specifically like all of the settings that I personally use to make my blur look amazing. So I'm going to leave it to that video. And if you're enjoying the content thus far and you want to also learn how to make custom theme switchers and wallpaper switchers and whatnot whilst you're already at it, you can click the first link in the description and check out Hyper Accelerator. It's a program where I teach you exactly how to do this sort of stuff. It's over 10 hours long, and so far 370 people have gone through it, and every single one of them loves it. So if you want, you can click the first link in the description and check it out right now. And that's pretty much it. We have set up decoration and theming, and yeah, that's it. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Stay rising. Mwah.